Today is April 9th, 2018. This is the Halifax Finance Committee. We are being recorded by Area 58. On the agenda tonight, we have mail, reserve fund transfers / line item transfers, meeting minutes, department meetings, 7:15 Silver Lake Schools, 7:45 wage and personnel, budget discussion, public participation, and adjournment. The schools might be a little later in the evening. So we have handouts of Sandy's spreadsheet, and the print of the warrant. So do we have any mail?
We do. I have a copy of the Beacon.
Okay, copy the Beacon. Anybody wants to?
I have Linda's resignation letter.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
So to the Halifax Selectmen, I regret to inform you that I must resign from my duties and participation to the town's Finance Committee. As of April 1st, 2018, it has been a privilege to participate and volunteer for the town. Thank you, Linda. So we should probably send her back a letter thanking her for her service to the town.
Okay.
And sign it at the next meeting, I guess.
Sure.
And a copy of the Beacon if anybody wants that. Okay, any reserve or line item transfers?
I have reserve fund.
Okay, we have amount requested $5,000 to, okay. Amount requested is $5,000. The present balance in the appropriation is a negative $2,280.14. The amount requested be used to pay for future legal fees on foreclosure properties. The expenditure is extraordinary, unforeseen for the following reasons. The foreclosure process has begun on 15 parcels. Signed, Pam Meducci. So, which fund is she using? Is it the normal legal?
I think it was her way of
No, it
asking.
goes into the tax title.
Okay. So we've already spent over $10,000 on tax title this fiscal year.
She's been putting the accounts into tax title promptly.
Okay.
And then they started the foreclosure process on several lots.
Okay.
When they do this foreclosure process, you don't know how fast the attorney's going to be able to move, so it was unforeseen that he would be able to move as quickly as he did on some of them.
Okay. Or is there a motion to approve in a second so we can discuss?
I'll make a motion to approve as requested.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Without her being here, I have a few questions on whether or not she thinks we'll get her through the rest of the year.
We're hoping that it will. As I said, they don't know how fast the attorney will move, so this was the initial, and then he was able to move on a couple of the properties, and I believe that's what put us over. So I think that this will get her through the end of the year, or hopefully at least until May.
Is the budget amount that we've increased for FY19 going to be sufficient?
That was what they originally asked for, was that amount, the extra.
Right, to total 5,000, but she's already expended 2,500. Well, she's already expended 5,000.
Well, she's already expended $10,500.
But they also get money on the check from the tax recap, approximately $10,000 from the tax recap.
So that's 20,000 that we've spent so far then this fiscal year?
No, she's saying going forward she'll get.
Going forward, yeah.
She'll get 10 going forward from,
Yeah. What did she get this year? She only got 2,500, I believe, from.
Correct.
From Article 4, and she had 10,000 between the treasurer tax title and the collector tax title. So she spent about 14,000.
I totally forgot to text you, but we're meeting Thursday for fire study. I'm sorry, I totally forgot to text you.
Okay.
6:30.
I'm probably not gonna make that, maybe at the Red Sox game, no.
Okay. All right, cool, I'll just promise I'll you text me on Friday and I'll let you know in the next.
Okay. All right, so which line are we talking about?
Treasurer tax title,
Treasurer,
line 26, tax title treasurer.
so the current year is 2,500. So she spent 5,000 so far this year. So your question, is that enough for next year?
Right.
What I'd ask is if you could approve the reserve fund transfer and then maybe ask her to come in and discuss about next year's budget. Just because we need it this year.
And then she can update you on how many more she sees that are going in.
Yeah,
But I think if she thought she needed more, she would have come forward, but
For this.
but this expense obviously was unforeseen,
yes,
Yeah.
that when she planned the 5,000, doubling the budget, is that enough?
yeah.
If she's gonna continue the process of,
I think she's gonna continue the process, yeah.
Okay, so is there further discussion? Do you want to schedule her for the next week or two?
I will make a motion to approve. Well, we already have, yeah.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
That's everyone. 4/9/2018. Is that the only one? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the meeting minutes. So this is from Monday, February 12th. Myself, Bill, Diane, and Melinda were present. We discussed the school, Silver Lakes assessment. Yeah, elementary school members were present. So I believe we just pretty much talked about the school this night. So everybody had a chance to review. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Abstentions? There you go, you still get the sign. Okay. Department meetings. It's next on the agenda. Has anybody reached out to their department heads after the last meeting?
I did by way of email.
Okay. Is there any?
I didn't get any response one way or the other.
Okay.
I emailed all of mine.
All? We were all gonna,
No,
For the expense.
Highway, water, sewer,
So we
cemetery,
know that,
recycling.
Steve was on vacation last week, just came back, or his first day back was today, I believe. So that's probably why, I don't know about anybody else, but he was on Steve's, that's why he didn't get it.
I think I sent it out not last week, but the week before. But I can follow up again.
I did talk to the schools and school committee members. There is discussion about having a special meeting to discuss a school resource officer. Tommy, end of April, beginning of May?
I'm sorry.
End of April, beginning of May for that meeting? School resource?
Yeah, no, I heard that part. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Just confirming that time.
I talked to,
This one,
I
I
don't think a time
actually
was,
read it earlier, it was good with me.
I don't-
Timing, so.
Okay,
I don't think a time was selected yet.
okay.
It was just a day. So is the school committee hosting the meeting? Or?
I believe so.
Yeah, I only know about a Ted Roderick's coordinated meeting.
So there's gonna be discussion in executive session to talk about school safety, and the school resource officer is gonna be part of that discussion. So it's the only,
Is this something they're hoping to get onto the FY19 budget?
I believe so.
This is across the street.
Yeah, at the elementary school. The issue of school resource officer came up at Silver Lake's meeting, at their budget meeting, but it was not put into their budget. And there was discussion over whether the towns would be in support of that position at both schools. But it's not in their budget. So that's the update from my departments on that aspect of what we could see coming as a change.
I emailed all of mine 2 weeks ago, like Bill did, and I think Barbara from COA was the only one who said she wanted to come before the committee, so I don't know if she came last week. Okay,
No,
then
she didn't.
I think I CC'd you, Kendra, or might have just said like, reach out, because I just sort of explained what the status was of our meeting 2 weeks ago, but she was the only one that replied.
Yep, I spoke to Sandy about that,
Okay.
and she didn't have any numbers. So,
She's concerned about the cost of the move and storage once the project starts, and we really don't have any numbers yet. We don't know how much time it's going to have to be in storage, they don't have to be over there or anything, but we will be working on getting those figures. And when she wanted to come over, the day she was going to come over, we were in the middle of trying to get the budget all approved. So I suggested that she work on that, try to get some more information and come at a later date to talk to you guys about it,
Okay.
because I don't believe it would be on this town meeting anyways. We don't think the money for the move is included in the $2 million.
It is or it is not?
We do not believe it is. Right, John?
I don't think so, no.
So we would have to either,
Probably increase the council aging expense budget or something.
consolidated expense budget. Okay. Any other budget items that we know aren't covered in the,
We have the exact figures for the wage and personnel for the reclassification.
okay,
They came in less than what we thought last week.
okay.
Sandy has the figures. That was just on the 4 different positions. Thanks, Sandy. Okay, the health agent, the difference was 1,614. The building and commissioner was 1,781. The water superintendent, the difference was 2,185. Recycling coordinator, which was the admin position, if it passes, renaming it recycling coordinator. The difference was 1,373. Total difference of 6,953. We had it a little less than 10,000. We thought it was right around 9 last week.
Okay. What was the cost for level funding all of the wage lines? And not wage lines, expense lines. What was the,
Saved about $22,000.
Jean, you had a question a couple weeks ago regarding the leftover money from your budget from this year, using it. Did you bring that forward? Oh, you took care of that?
It
Okay.
ended up just being the cost of a wireless access point that Caesar had come to the library and put
Okay.
in, so I brought it straight out of my supply budget, and then the wireless access point, I'll just.
Okay, so that, okay.
My incentive grant money there.
All right, thanks, Jean.
Yep.
okay.
Caesar hasn't given me the invoice yet, maybe I'll just, I won't remind him.
Come on.
I forgot we're on camera.
So currently we have $119,130.09 over what we had recommended. And that was due to the changes in the school budgets, basically special ed and the elementary school budget. So with that money available, do you want to revisit those lines that we held?
One thing's the election.
There's only one that we should revisit. That's the election and registrars. When we level funded it for a year that there wasn't the elections. So that one we do need to.
Line 30.
run the agenda.
Because each year there's a different number of elections. So in fiscal 18, we have,
A primary and a governor's race.
well, that's fiscal 19, exactly. We've got 3 elections rather than 1, which is what we have for fiscal 18. Because in July 17 and June of 18, we just have the town election in May of 18. As you pointed out, well, the election in September of 18, the general in November of 18, and then the town election in May of 19.
So Barbara's request was $16,318.
Okay. So is a motion?
I'll make a motion to
reconsider.
reconsider line 30, election register.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, what's the new number be?
16,318.
Is that your motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 16,318 for line number 30, elect or register.
Yeah. I think it's 16,426. 16,426, sorry.
16,426.
Thank you.
So is there a second for 16426 for line 30?
I second 16,426 on line 30.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
So we need to take 4,300 out. Was there any discussion for what the potential cost of a school resource officer for the elementary would be?
I'm assuming that's a full-time,
Would have to be.
do you know what that number?
I don't know anything about anything, because no one's talked about exactly what they want, but you're talking at the very least, let's say just minimum $50,000, $45,000 for a step one person.
It wouldn't be though, Charlie, because it would be based on union and they bid shifts, and so you could have the
Well,
highest.
As I said, a minimum, well, the
Yeah.
thing is, if Officer X, who's
Yeah.
already here, goes over there, we're having to replace Officer X
With
anyway.
this-
We're gonna get a new person
Yes.
in,
That's
and
true.
that new person will be at step
Yeah.
one. So let's say somewhere in the order of 45 to 50.
But you'd have to train that person, so it's about what did I used to figure out? Years ago, it was about 35,000 to get a new person in addition to their salary. Because you could,
Well,
well, I
you'll
guess you
have-
wouldn't have to because you
Yeah.
wouldn't have to fill a shift. So-
Right, until
but
that
you'd have to
person
pay
came
them
in.
to go to the academy though.
But so
Yeah,
it's 45, let's say it's 45 to 50 a year.
yeah.
Just for starters. Second is, forgetting about overtime for a moment, you've got health insurance and anything else. I don't know whether this person's gonna be health, if the person's on health insurance, you're adding another $12,000 possibly into the bill. Okay. Then the third thing is, about going back to overtime. As much as that person's vacation and such is minimal, the person's going to work, when we had our prosecutor working, that prosecutor works a 5 and 2 rather than a 4 and 2. They still end up, and then because of like 17 extra days off, because the 4 and 2 schedule, you're working 240, a couple of days more than that on that basis. Not the 261 and 262 that your normal 5-day people are working.
Which is tough for that kind of a schedule too. See, Kingston's able to do it more easily because they have more people on shift. They probably have on Monday to Friday.
So you'll have a 5 and 2 person, and probably say to that person, either you'll have to set some system up that someone else fills those shifts, in the sense of, it's all up to negotiations, but whether it's let's say vacation and sick leave, sick leave again, I think vacation and those extra days have to be taken during the, let's say, during the breaks. I mean, you've got winter, you've got Christmas break, you've got February, you've got April, you've got the holidays. So you should probably make it work. But the person may be sick at various times, so you're gonna have to plug in overtime somewhere. So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at a minimum, setting aside any other expenses, 70, 75,000, something like that.
Okay.
But no, that's not even right in the back of the envelope. But it won't be much less than that, so.
Okay. You say 48 early? Say again? 48 early?
For what?
The thing that we just changed?
4,300.
Okay. I'll just go to-
There's no,
She's saying it's quiet.
I just texted Joy and Paula to tell them that we had them in for 7:15. See if we can push them to 8:15. So we have wage at 7:45. So 15 minutes for that. So, are there any other lines that we see possible changes on town meeting floor?
I'm just gonna take the opportunity to go up to Hot Springs
Okay.
a little bit and I'll come back.
You wanna take time to go through what we didn't do?
Yeah, we can do that. So we'll skip the wage for now.
Yep.
So Article 5 we should vote on, right? Because we didn't do that?
Yeah, but there'll be wage items in there, like the building.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
All right,
none of those are wage items.
all right.
Is there a motion to approve Article 5 as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
This is due to Charlie saying that we need to revote this every year, even after our
Yeah.
bylaw change last year.
even with the bylaw, I was under the impression when we voted bylaw last week, with the Municipal Modernization Act. The whole idea in my mind was bylaw was, once you get the bylaw, in place, you don't have to do this. There was an advisory sent out on a number of fiscal and budget issues from the local services a few days ago. I actually read the document and read the paragraph about the revolving funds, and it said, well, you still have to do a budget. So I actually contacted Sean Owen, who's the department secretary for Division of Local Services, and he confirmed, yeah, you still need to do this. So that's why it's actually there, even though as of a couple of weeks ago, I said, no, don't need to do it. The amounts haven't changed from fiscal 18, nothing's changed. It's just unfortunately, I'm not sure why we went through the process, but
Okay.
we did.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right, so 7's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Are those just dollar amounts for the union articles now?
Yes.
There's
everybody's
no-
confirmed.
No other changes to the,
No,
contracts.
everybody's in a wait-only reopener year. And we still want to percent of everybody, and everybody's still with us. They got confirmation from everybody about that.
okay, so is there a motion for Article 7? To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $14,653 to fund the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 2019 between IAFF Local 3159 firefighters in the town of Halifax to take any action thereon.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor, aye.
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 I'm a no, so forward. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,597 to fund the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 2019 between the AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Union Council 93, Local 1700, Highway Cemetery, and the town of Halifax to take any action thereof. Is there a motion to approve?
Charlie, just to confirm, this reflects 2%? Okay, I'd make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I'm a no for one. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,886 to fund the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 2019 between Massachusetts COP Local 459 sergeants in the town of Halifax to take any action thereof. Is there a motion?
Same question, Charlie?
Yep. 2%.
Make a motion to approve as read.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 4-1. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $13,773 to fund the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement for the fiscal year 2019 between the Halifax Association of Police Patrolmen and the town of Halifax to take any action thereon.
Same question, Charlie?
Yes, 2%.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed, 4-1. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,358 to fund the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 2019 between the police chief, Edward Broderick, and the town of Halifax, or take any action thereon.
Motion to approve.
That's another two.
I
Sir.
second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 No, 4-1. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,080 to fund the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 2019 between the fire chief, Jason Viveros, and the town of Halifax to take any action thereon. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I'm a no, 4-1. Okay, we did that. We have to wait for the chapter number. That article. Recommend.
I think it's still.
There you go. See if, Article 39, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $3,500 to support South Shore Community Action Council's work with the residents, or take any action thereon. Were the selectmen discussing this at the last meeting?
This is the South Shore Women's Center? or
The South Shore Community Action Council, have they talked about that
No, the
yet?
board hasn't talked about it since they submitted it.
So we'll hold
Did I
off.
Did I review the sequence with you all?
Yeah.
Last week, yeah.
So we'll hold off till they make a recommendation. Did you get an update for 40, Charlie, the 5,000 to support health
Yeah,
imperatives?
I wrote to them and said, you know, your article's on the warrant. If you want to meet with the selectmen or the finance committee, please contact me or contact Kendra, and
No
I
response?
agree with silence.
Okay.
Passover.
So, streetlights, should we get an update from the highway surveyor on these
The
streetlights?
Kestrel,
Yeah,
I'm still waiting to get an amount from National Grid.
okay. Monpont Pond?
That is a placeholder article in case we get closer to town meeting and either there's money available or I find that we do need money even to get through this year's project. I didn't want to set up a situation that I had to come, for instance, for a reserve fund transfer.
Okay.
So it's there. I'll inform you not on May 14th if I want to see if any money's available.
Okay, 43 is widening the parking lot at the library and Hops. Any,
And I'm waiting for Scott to get a figure as to what needs to be done there.
okay. Pilot agreement between Green Apple Farms on Franklin Street.
Right, the next four articles are to do with two proposed solar projects. The Franklin Street one, the site plan was approved back in 2016. This is the site where Rick Springer wanted to put the 40B development. He wants to build a solar array there. If you remember when we've done pilot agreements, it's a two-phase situation in that, I'm not intended in that case. The town has to authorize the board of selectmen and the board of assessors to negotiate a pilot. Then, once the pilot's negotiated, it's brought back to town meeting. The last one we did, which was for Summit Street, town council said you can actually do both at the same time in the sense of you don't have to do one at one town meeting, the next at the next town meeting. That helps speed things up. We're doing negotiations, it's all informal at this point. We don't have a draft. In fact, I think the firm for Franklin Street just submitted a draft to the board of assessors in the last, even today, I think it was. So I don't have anything to bring to you tonight, but the order would be, if we have a draft available, then we'll bring it to you in the town meeting. But town meeting would still say, we didn't authorize you to negotiate, but now we are authorizing, and wonders of wonders, here's a draft contract agreement for a pilot. We hit the second article there. It says, then we ought, okay, now we have a draft agreement, 5 seconds later, and here we are. And that will be true for the other one also, which is the proposed development over on River Street.
So those are linked together, they have to
Yes.
flow that way. Okay, so have to get an update on those two. Any movement on the negotiations for the barrage land?
I have a draft agreement on what I need to do still, the major roadblock, not roadblock, but major hurdle. I have to get a confirmation from the IG's Inspector General's office to whether we actually need to go through the bidding process or not. It's clear that they had wanted to transfer land to us like they did when we got the parcel, that the state does not need to go out to bid. It's not as clear in the Inspector General's guide as to whether we need to go out to bid, despite that we have an interest in getting it to the state. If we don't, then I may have to have a different article at town meeting, but this was there giving sufficient information to the voters that were contemplating one way or the other transferring land to the state.
Okay.
The idea will be that we will get, in one way or the other, 250,000. There's a possibility that the land itself is appraised at less than 250. The state will look to obtain some other small parcels of land that abut various other state parcels in Halifax, generally land of low value. So, and those lands could also be transferred as part of this
To make up
package. Yeah. But one way or the other, we would get 250. The 250 would simply go right into the general fund. It's not a set aside specifically for space or recreation or anything else. It just goes in the general fund. And we could then say, fine, we're going to throw it into the stabilization fund in the end, or something like that. But it doesn't, there's no specificity as to how we use that money.
Okay.
7:45.
Okay, 7:45. We will move to the wage and personnel discussion. So that is Article 2. So at the last meeting, the Finance Committee recommended the 2% wage increase, and then the reclassifications for sections 2, 3, 4, 5 were a 2-2 vote. And that's what's printed in the budget. And then Finance Committee recommended 6, 7, 8, and that's the end of that. So, who wants to lead the discussion on the wage and personnel?
To what, the reclassifications?
I guess, yep, that's what we.
Okay, so that was a 2-2 vote. Are we
Yep.
gonna reconsider and vote again?
I guess that's what we're planning on doing tonight. I don't know
Okay.
if we wanted to present the information on it.
Okay, I'll present it. Okay, so that was Article 2. Okay, so the second one, to reclassify the position of health inspector from a grade 10 to a grade 11. So the health inspector is at a grade 10 now, step 6, going to a grade 11. So it's actually gonna be a difference of $1,614.
Now, is that grade
Grade 11 would be
11's
step 3, with
So
a
it's-
difference of 1,614. So it would be a reclassification, so regrade.
So then there's 6 steps in
There's
that?
6 steps in that. Right now, the health agent is at grade 10 at the highest, step 6, at 67,976. If she went to a grade 11, step 3 should be at 69,590, with a difference of 1,614.
That's with the 2% included?
That is with the 2%, correct.
So that's the $3,000 number that we were talking about, or 25?
Yeah, we were off. We were just off a little bit on that.
These root beer barrels are a hard sell. Wait till we buy it.
Wait till she starts throwing them at you.
Yeah.
So,
And that was because it was brought to the board in the January meeting, 14 months ago. Not the past January of 2018, 2017. So that was one of the positions that was before we decided on the reclassification of all the non-union employees. That was brought before the board first.
okay, so
That-
how many positions were brought that day
3 positions were actually brought before the board.
on that
Yes.
day?
Yes, during that meeting.
And just those 3 positions?
Correct.
That's
And then we
health, building
decided,
inspector, and
yes,
water.
the health agent, the building commissioner, the water superintendent. And that's when we put together the study for the reclassification of all positions under non-union.
Does anybody have, from the audience, have anything?
Are you taking these one at a time, or are you taking them all? at a time?
Take them one at a time, Charlie.
Want to do the health inspector, is that what?
Yeah, that's what
Yes, we're
we're,
doing that first.
All right. Good evening, I'm John Delano, I'm chairman of the Board of Health. Some you know me, others don't, so that's why I'm introducing myself.
Do we want to just go?
Yeah.
Melinda Tarsi, nice to meet you.
Diane Ruxton, nice to meet you.
Same here.
Gordon, nice to see you again.
Mel Conroy.
Good job, Bill McAvoy.
Glad to meet y'all. About 23 years ago, I got on the Halifax Board of Health, and I've been on it ever since. Back then, we could go out and put an advertisement in the paper, and you could get somebody to come in and be your health agent, your health inspector. They were untrained. No one wanted to work for the Halifax Board of Health that had any qualifications. We would get people with great resumes, with great education, and they would look at their salary and say they're not accepting it, and end up taking the person who accepted the position for the amount of money that the town paid. So we dealt with that quite often as chairman. I'm a sanitarian. My company that I work for does engineering and surveying. So a lot of the things that were being done with perk tests and septic systems, I was more than qualified to go out and step in for an untrained health agent that was working for the town. But there's more to the Board of Health than witnessing a perk test or inspecting a septic system. There's all kinds of public health issues that must be dealt with, and the binders that contain all of the regulations that we must follow are quite thick, and it takes quite a bit of knowledge to be able to handle your inspections for food safety, for housing, dealing with the public health itself, as far as dealing with the diseases and things, rabies and that kind of thing. So little by little, we were able to acquire a person that fit into the category of what we were looking for to protect the town. And that person is Kathy Drynan, who is here this evening with me. She acquired some additional education. She became a registered sanitarian, the first one in this town to be a sanitarian in the position in the Board of Health. She oversees the office administrator and a variety of consultants that we deal with to assist us in our work in getting the Board of Health's work done. And so therefore, she's more than just an inspector or an agent. As a practicing land surveyor and sanitarian in Plymouth County, Bristol County, I come in contact with a number of health agents in other towns. And very few of the towns have people in a position with the knowledge that Kathy has. And I see quite a bit of difference in the ability of those health agents dealing with the public versus what I see with Kathy. She is an expert in what she does, or she wouldn't become a registered sanitarian by the Commonwealth of Mass.
So just to where we're classifying the position,
yes,
I wouldn't talk so much about the person in the position, because if it's a requirement to have that license for a sanitarian, then I would make sure that we included that in
On the
the
job
study.
description, in the study. I don't believe, we don't have all the job descriptions for the whole study
Okay.
to compare them.
Are there any other licenses that you require that we need to make sure that position
yes.
has?
Food safety, that takes a course where you have to become certified. And that allows the person to go into a restaurant and determine whether there's critical violations or just corrective measures that must be taken. I'm a sanitarian, I know what they are, but I would have a difficult time going into a restaurant and accomplishing the inspections that Kathy's able to do. And sorry, a person in our health department that would be out there doing that. So yes, just being a sanitarian doesn't mean that you're an expert. The other courses that you must take during the year, which are offered by the Health Officers Association, the current person in the Board of Health position that we're discussing this evening takes advantage of those courses and continually upgrades and does continuing education in that respect. So what we believe is that this position needs that grade in order to protect the town, so that if that person that's currently in the position now leaves the town, we would be able to have another person come in with equal qualifications and continue protecting the town as well as the current person does.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for John?
Are the certifications and the extra training that's been had by this person, is that funded by the town or self-funded?
It's, some of them are funded by the town, some of it's voluntary.
So it's self-funded
Some of
by
it.
the person? Okay.
Now, of course, our budget is kind of limited, so, for example, I have to take some of these courses, and I do it either through a scholarship that's offered by the Health Officers Association, or I just pay for it myself. And I'd much rather see that if there are any funds available, that the staff person gets that money to do it. But I do know that there are other sources of funding that comes outside of the town through these scholarships that we're able to take advantage of. And the person in that position seeks those funds so that it can assist keeping the cost of our budget down. And again, it's not because we just want to go, it's because there's nothing worse than going out and doing something that's required by the law and not knowing it. So the only way you can find that information is to take these courses.
You guys have any other
Questions?
Okay. Anybody else have, or John, it's you.
John, obviously you've been there for quite some time. In terms of what was expected when, let's say 20 years ago, in terms of the job, and what is now expected? What are the differences in the job in the sense of the proposal is to move from grade 10 to grade 11. Generally what we're saying when we do that, there's a combination of what the market is out there in terms of what you need to pay someone to do the job, but it's also the duties and responsibilities, the experience and training that are needed for the job. What do you think are the differences between what was expected in those areas 20 years ago and what's expected now?
20 years ago, again, it was you took the person who came in and would accept the position, and it usually meant that they didn't have any training, so they learned on the job and did acquire some practical knowledge. And back then, I don't think any of the individuals went off to get this additional education or certifications. As the knowledge, my knowledge of what it takes to do the mandate that the state requires of the public health department, I realized that we needed these courses, so I encouraged anybody that was on the board itself and the staff to take these courses. And there are a number of certification courses that even the administrative assistant has taken. And it's just every course that you take, you realize how much you don't know and that you need to take additional ones. So as the board maintained its kind of the same makeup that it is today, and it's been a board that's been pretty stable for many years. The members of the health board have recognized that we need to encourage our health agent to get these certifications, because we can't keep up with it because we're just volunteers and meet a couple times a month, and these people have to be the voice for the board, going out into the public, called at any time of the day in case there's an emergency. And the board members themselves can't keep up with that, so we needed to get those certifications. The original person could have been any one of us in this room, and you would have learned on the job. And yet you didn't have any education or any certification.
Good.
I have a
Good.
quick question. When we talk about how the position has evolved over the last 20 years, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the health agent is really very involved with the ponds and the whole algae and the bacteria, and involved in writing grants so that we can use those grants for research and for treatment. So that's something that has sort of fallen upon the Board of Health too, and I didn't know if Wage and Personnel had that in the job description, but I know from experience of sitting in meetings that that's been the role of the health agent.
And one more thing, back then, this list here wasn't even considered necessary for the health agent. Back then, they had to be able to go out and witness at perk tests and copy down the notes that the engineer that was working for the developer and kept a log of it, but oftentimes didn't even know what they were looking at. And over the years, the health agent has had to learn all of these, and some of you may have seen this before, and the list just keeps growing. It's constantly, we're getting updates from the Department of Public Health on what is expected of us. And I remember years ago when we didn't have a health agent, and the director, the head of the Department of Public Health called me up and said, we have a complaint that from a tenant that the Board of Health is not responding to the tenant's complaint against the landlord. And I said to the person, gee, you know, I'm just part-time volunteer for the Board of Health, and he said, I don't care what you think you are or are not, this law says that you must do this, and you must do it in a certain amount of time. And I had no knowledge of that, so immediately I went and found out what it was necessary, but he was right.
Mm-hmm.
We have no choice but to do what's required by the law and what's given to us in terms of orders, and a lot of times it's unfunded. It's a mandate with no funding for us to recoup the money for the town. So this list just keeps growing, and I'm sure next year if I held this up, there'd be a few more sticky notes put on it that health director, health agent would need to know. And again, I'm appalled to say that there are towns that have people in the position of a health agent that have only an eighth of what our current health agent has for knowledge and education. And yet, the town is expecting them to do the job, and I'm kind of sorry for the residents of those towns that are not being protected adequately in accordance to the law. And it's only because the board members themselves from those towns don't go to these certification courses and learn what is expected out of the Board of Health. And you can see it, that they don't show up at those meetings, and our board does. So we're keeping right on top of what we need to do, and I'm here tonight to just say that that position should be upgraded.
Thank you.
Tom?
I just wanted to add a little something, just something that we haven't really touched on. John started to allude to it in terms of tenants' rights that the health agent would get involved in. There's another element to the department head job of the health agent involved in this. There's a critical element of being in confrontational situations off-site by themselves, writing citations. There's a whole nother element of responsibility and potential exposure in terms of physical threats and whatnot that elevates this job, in my opinion, and having worked with health agents for a lot of years, that isn't your typical department head kind of job. I think that's just another element of it that should be taken into consideration. I know that the health agent typically in a tenant situation will end up in court, acting as a paralegal without a license, trying to advocate for tenants' rights. There's a lot of aspects that you couldn't even cover in the short time that we have to do here, that an agent would be responsible for in today's health agent scenario.
Thank you. That's right.
Okay.
Does the job description today accurately reflect the responsibilities of the role today?
We don't actually have a current job description. We have the one that Dawn did during the reclassification. That is Kathy's job description right now, but, I mean, we'll obviously review it again.
So how does that process work? Because we're in the middle of
Um,
using Dawn's review.
Right, we're using Dawn's review. All the job descriptions were rewritten by Dawn.
And when does wage,
Well, it's not up to wage because the bylaw was changed. It's up to the department heads to submit them to wage.
but when does wage have to update them?
There's no set time.
It's not in the bylaw that it has to be.
No, it's not in the bylaw anymore. It was in the bylaw that wage was going to review them every
Yes.
2 years, and that was changed last year or the year before. So now it's up to the department heads to change the job descriptions and submit them to wage and personnel.
So it's quite extensive, the one that exists. I didn't realize you want it resubmitted.
Well, I don't know that you'd want it, sorry.
No,
Charlie?
I don't know that a resubmission is necessary.
No.
In fact, all the work that's needed, whether it's for this particular job or for any other position, all that work's been done. I have not heard anybody challenge on wage and personnel, for instance, the accuracy or validity of any of the job descriptions that have been presented. Don met with the individual employees, met with the various department heads for those employees. Once the descriptions were written up, they went through a review process again with the employees and department heads. Everything's been submitted to wage and personnel. If somebody wanted a copy of the job description for this particular one or for anything else that Don's done, be happy to provide it. It's all a matter of public record. But I don't see any need, we'll take on the health agent position right now, that it needs to go back to the Board of Health for another review. That work's been done.
So has this job description been reviewed against the other towns?
well, it's hard to get the other job descriptions from the other towns. We receive the salaries, the amount of hours. We do not have the job descriptions from the other towns, from the 10 benchmark towns. And when Don did his reclassification, he did not receive job descriptions from other towns. Basically salaries, he got verbally some of the job descriptions, but not the formal job description itself from the towns. It's very hard to compare, especially in the health agent position, to compare it with the other towns, exactly what our health agent does, as John described, compared to other towns.
And Tom's classic tale is of a neighboring community where the Board of Health agent there did not do any food inspections,
Mhm.
which I would think would be a primary role. I mean, I think ours does many, many things, but I think even at the most basic level, you're talking septic systems, you're talking food safety. At the very basic level, you've got, a health agent needs to be doing those first things there. Yeah, we had another community, for whatever reason, that person, until they were fully brought up to speed and awake, that they needed to be doing this. So if we were comparing our position with another one, you could compare it, and then you'd say, okay, well, it's comparable, but it's not comparable in the sense of that this person is not doing the work that our, whoever it is, health agent would be doing.
So if we bring in somebody new into the position, that's what we're grading this to be, is to bring in somebody new. Is that new person gonna be up to speed right away as a grade 11? Because it sounds like the responsibilities grow over time, where this sounds more like, I know we got rid of merit, so, but this sounds more like learning the job description and moving into it, whereas if you bring in somebody new into this position, to put them at a grade 12 doesn't seem to make sense from
Or
what,
bring anybody-
well, 11, sorry, 11.
So can I just interrupt for a second? So only because I used to be on wage and personnel, I'm not on it right now, but the way that it works is that the job description will let you know what the grade is. So within that grade are the steps. So what Dawn has said is based on the job description of what we expect, regardless if it's Kathy in this position or somebody new walking in. These are the requirements and these are the jobs of this particular position. The experience of that is in the steps. So if you have somebody coming in.
I understand that,
Okay.
Kim, but what it sounds like, this is something that you grow not over a 6-year period of time. This sounds like it's a lot longer than that.
Well, I think
But
what's happened
did
over
you-
20 years is simply the duties have grown.
Change.
I think you'll find that in a lot of positions in Halifax, that if you looked at what that person was doing 20 years ago with what that person's doing now, it can be a very different position. We're not going to go to a 20-step position.
Understood.
Nor are we going to, well, because it's either you do 20 steps or you say, okay, for the first 6 years, position is at grade X. The next 6 years, the position is at grade Y. We don't have that set up for anything. What I would hope is, and I'm happy to have Kathy here as long as she wants to be here, believe me, she's been a great partner to work with on any number of things. So that's my hope. I'm hoping that we don't have to think about this for a while. But whoever is brought in to fill that position when Kathy leaves, my hope is we're not going to get someone from a larger community who's the Board of Health agent, who's the top person coming here. But my hope is that we'll get someone who is a number 2, possibly in a larger community, who wants to move up in the ranks, who has a lot of this experience. There will always be gaps. And I don't, when Rob came in, as an example, as building inspector, or Sandy came in as town accountant, for instance, Joy would even feel the same way, or Barbara would feel the same way. Walking in, you don't know everything, but you're still going to have to do that job as well as you can. And you're never going to know everything. But nevertheless, you grade and you pay the position on the basis of a certain set of minimum expectations that that person's going to be able to either know how to do much of the job and then also be able to learn how to do the rest of it.
And the new job description would reflect that, if we were to put it out there when Kathy does the...
Gordon?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, you're kind of looking at two different things here. In my opinion, I think you're looking to compensate the position, and you're also trying to create a compensation that would attract the caliber of person that you want to fill the job, whether they're coming with every single bit of knowledge, but at least the capacity and the desire. I think it gives you the opportunity to interview people, I mean, at least hopefully, interview people that you want to hire, as opposed to, it was alluded to earlier, just someone to fill the position at a basic rate, Hey, that's a pretty good job, man, I'll take it, I don't know anything about it, but, it's okay.
Does Wage and Personnel have any idea, with this reclassification, where does that put us in relation to our benchmark towns? Does that put us at the top? Does that put us in the middle? Does that leave us in the bottom third? Does this reclassification,
I think you got that big table last week.
Oh, as far as John's reclassification, or the one that we did the
if we
survey?
make
yeah.
this reclassification,
Mhm.
does this put us in the top, the middle?
Does
or-
putting this to a grade 11 puts us right within the benchmarks, right in the middle.
I only did
Because we
math.
would be putting her at a step 3. So, and there's 6 steps, so that's right in the middle of the benchmark. But
I
you
only
have to-
did it on paper when I was sitting there trying to figure it out because I
But
got it.
you have to remember Dawn's reclassification is 14 months old too. So when we're looking at those
Sure.
figures,
So the hourly rate for Halifax is $32.03, and the average rate is $35.43. That's just based, this is.
That was
You
based
guys
on the
passed
newest,
this out.
that was based on the
And
newest
I just
study.
sat with my
Yeah.
calculation and calculated it out.
Only because we sent Sue out to get more updated information because John's study was 14 months old
Sure.
at that time. And it's not an easy process going out there and with the 10 benchmark towns because the position in the town of Halifax is so different than the positions in the other 9 towns.
Yeah, I know we're never gonna compare
Yeah,
A to
it's
A,
hard,
but
I know.
Does anybody else have any comments to say? Okay, it was moved and seconded. No other discussion. All those in favor?
Yeah, we haven't.
We haven't? I thought we
We moved
moved to
to-
reconsider. Oh, we just moved to reconsider?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't do anything.
You, maybe you fell asleep.
No, I don't.
No, we
It's entirely
We
possible.
didn't
No,
do
we
it.
actually didn't move to reconsider.
No.
We asked for information. We didn't
Yeah.
have a
Okay.
motion yet.
Trust me, I was paying attention.
No, I wasn't.
Maybe you were snoozing.
I probably was. Okay.
So you need to reconsider. If you're gonna revote.
all right, I think I'll have to make that motion, correct?
Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion to reconsider our vote from last Monday on the reclassification of position of health inspector from grade 10 to grade 11.
I second the motion to reconsider.
Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. It's been moved to reconsider. So, is there a motion now?
I'll make a motion to reclassify the position of health inspector from a grade 10 to a grade 11.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. So the discussion that I would have take place now is, I'm still of the opinion that we paid for that study. I would like to see everything reclassified at once. Because I think treating these jobs differently is not what we set out to do when we hired that consultant to come in.
And the only reason we decided to reclassify those 3 positions is because those were the ones that came forth at the January meeting in 2017.
Okay.
I'm of the same belief that giving, regardless of the fact of when they came,
Sure.
we told every employee in this town that we were going to undergo this process. We've undergone this process. It's still a work in progress, I understand that. But to give special treatment to any position is going to cause potential upset in the whole apple cart. So I'm just concerned with that.
I'm not. I'm of a different opinion. I think that if all the departments, all the people that were affected had the ability to go and make the same case that these 3 positions did, they had that opportunity, and I don't think it's right to be penalizing the ones that did.
Okay.
I think I'm just concerned that the longer we wait on all of them, the older the study becomes.
Well, we're gonna do our research on the current rates for the next fiscal year, for the rest of the reclassification.
For the rest of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to reclassify the
We did, we
position.
already moved
I
it.
thought I already
Alright,
did,
yeah,
so
yeah.
wait a second, yeah.
So-
It's voting time.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm a no.
I'm a no.
So 3-2 it passes. Okay. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Want to meet with the school?
yeah, I guess unless,
Sorry.
so we'll move back to the school then. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
So,
Oh, no, that's okay.
so just so you know, Joey, we talked about earlier that there's a possible discussion of a SO, school resource officer at the elementary school, coming up for discussion in the end of April, May timeframe. So we updated the board on that possibility.
So thank you for hearing us again. We were here
Last week.
2 days ago. Ooh, I didn't bring an extra copy of it, sorry. We were here last week and you were short one member. And so when we presented and talked about the Silver Lake budget, it was basically a 2-2 breakdown. And so we asked about coming back when you had a full quorum so we could discuss it again. And see if there were any other questions or concerns that we could address. One of the things, I guess, when we made our cuts, we cut about $300,000 from Silver Lake. We were asked to bring the assessment down to $150,000. Initially, it was $200,000, and then when some of the financial things came up, it was brought down to $150,000. We brought our assessment down to $175,000. The elementary also made substantial cuts. We have worked very hard to work with the town's requests, and yet to still meet the needs of our students in district. And I guess my only question to the Finance Committee is, am I correct that the town would be capable, if you chose to support it, of paying the $175,000 assessment? Is there funding available in terms of...
Bottom line, there are funds under the levy. It's been the policy of this board to try and not tax the residents every last dollar. We're trying to be as financially responsible to the residents when developing the budget. But to answer your question, there are dollars available.
Okay.
We are just concerned with the growth rate.
Sure.
It's exponentially higher than any of our other departments. We understand the importance of the school, from providing a wonderful education to maintaining the value in your home, having a good school system.
Sure.
It's a delicate balancing act, and we understand that.
Right. So as I said, I just wanted to see if there were any other questions that you might have. We have the increase down in Silver Lake to 2.67. If you look at any surrounding districts, I mean, that's a very reasonable increase for a large school system. As you know, Silver Lake is like its own city. We have to pay health insurance, and I think you all know how health insurance increases have gone of all our employees. We are the largest employee of any of the towns. We have a lot of teachers, we have a lot of paraprofessionals, so, the same increases you're dealing with and the same pain you feel, believe me, I feel. We have snow, we have to plow. That isn't done by anyone else. So all the same costs that you are dealing with in running the town, we are dealing with in running Silver Lake. So, again, I think an increase of 2.67, knowing that, because as I said, I know you're aware of the insurance increases and the other increases that we're dealing with. I feel we have a very viable budget. The town of Kingston has voted to support the assessment, and I believe Plimpton will also. So I just wanted you to have all the information that I have.
Good, thank you. Does anybody else want to, Paula or Christine, do you want to say anything tonight? Or?
I think we went through a lot of it last time. We did the best we could to come down to what we feel is truly a reasonable budget, without really, shorting the kids or the school system, too much. It's not a luxurious budget. It keeps us on par. I don't know, you weren't here for the last meeting. I don't know if anything, the Bright program or anything you want us to get into any detail on that.
It's up to you if you have any questions.
Information.
Yeah, I think it would just be helpful to hear a quick overview of any new programming, because I noticed the mentions made to changes to existing programs, the addition of new programs, so it might be helpful just a couple sentences on those.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
I apologize, I wasn't even going to come tonight. I'm a little under the weather.
Yeah, we're just kind of trying to, eyes are too close. Yeah,
Cough.
No.
We still have cough drops up here for us.
I'm teasing. I think it's going to go that way. So
Just gonna pop it out, don't touch it.
Yeah. So in terms of our budget, what happened is we had 4 teachers who retired before we started building our budget, which was wonderful for us because it gave us an opportunity of, did we want to replace that exact position, or was this an opportunity to provide different services that were more in line with what our students currently needed. So we had 2 remedial reading teachers retire. We had an adjustment counselor retire, and we had, I'm going off the top of my head,
A sped and a carpentry.
thank you, sped teacher, thank you. God bless us. I'm sorry, just came from Kingston, I'm trying to remember which school I'm in. And a sped teacher retire. So with those 4 positions, we made some changes. The carpentry teacher came the following month, about a month later, so we had a total of 5 retirements. So we are replacing the adjustment counselor with another adjustment counselor. Adjustment counselors are very important with everything going on in life. With the 2 remedial reading teachers, what we realized was on the elementary level, we've been able to bring in some new reading services where we feel by the time our kids are getting to the elementary school, the Title I can meet the needs of the kids, that we don't need remedial reading at the middle school any longer. We've done some research, we're doing progress monitoring on the elementary level. We have some programs in that we feel by the time our kids are getting to the middle school that we are okay without having full remedial reading teachers. So in place of those, we're putting in a STEM teacher, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, really sort of the challenging programs, the programs that kids love. Being able to bring in Project Lead the Way, some robotics programs, things that really hopefully will keep more students in district, losing less to the charter school, which has really been a problem for us. It's the loss to the charter school. It's a huge loss of money. We also are putting in a BRIGHT program with them that stands for Bridge for Resilient Youth in Transition. The BRIGHT program would be an adjustment counselor at the high school level that is particularly designed to work with students who are maybe out on psychiatric issues, maybe anxiety, stress, they might have cutting issues. Also students who may have gone out on a concussion that need to have a slightly different programming. So it's someone that can work with those students. It's sort of a safe place for them to go where they can sort of help them to come back into the full student body, but they'll be in the building and be able to meet those needs. So hopefully we won't have more students going out of district, which doesn't impact the Silver Lake budget, but it impacts the elementary budget, which we also pay for. And then the carpentry teacher we will be replacing. And then with the special education teacher, we're going to put in an additional 0.5 adjustment counselor at the middle school, because at the middle school we are building in programs that are revolving fund programs, special education programs, to keep more students in district, because the more students we can keep in district, the less cost it is for all of our towns. And that adjustment counselor will sort of be tied to those specific programs and to provide some additional supports for them. The other 0.5 is a new CTE program. It's called Allied Health. This is something we've talked about for a long time. The children will be graduating, young adults, I'm sorry, children. The young adults will be graduating with a certified nursing assistant license. And that is because they will be going out, they'll be working with some of our local resources like Wingate. They'll be coming out with CPR degrees. They'll be coming out ready to have a job. If they choose not to go with the CNA approach, even though they may have that certification, they could go into physical therapy, they could go into becoming an RN, or even into any sort of medical field they're into. That is a program that is one of the fastest growing in the vocational program. If you look in the Help Wanted ads, those are the programs, the jobs that you always see. So they are programs that we feel really better meet the needs of our kids, will hopefully keep more students in Silver Lake, which will help us by not losing more going to the charter school. It still provides cost savings to the budget. You have the numbers there, like 145,000 maybe, something like that, by replacing with those positions, but they are positions that will better meet the needs of our students. I'm sorry, I tried to talk fast, I hope I got that all.
No, I appreciate the overview.
Joy, on an unrelated subject,
Sure.
The elementary school obviously had some discussion about a school resource officer.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can expect from Silver Lake?
But actually, that's a great question, thank you. So all the schools are interested in having a school resource officer.
Yeah, I'm aware that the superintendents all met and that was a big topic of discussion.
I hosted. So basically what has happened at Silver Lake is the town of Kingston has funded a school liaison officer. The other towns were not in a position, I guess, to help pay for that position. So the town of Kingston wanted our Silver Lake system to have a school resource officer, so they pay for the position. So it's a town of Kingston police officer, and they spend half their time at the Silver Lake campus. So Halifax and Plimpton do not pay any portion of that position. Needless to say, it doesn't just service Kingston kids, it services any student who's in need. And the town of Kingston has always footed that bill. So that's all we have on the Silver Lake campus. With everything that has been happening, it has becoming more and more in the forefront that, obviously we would love to have a full-time resource officer at Silver Lake. We would also love to have more resources. We have a great relationship in Halifax and in Kingston and in Plimpton. Mike Schleff, I'm not going to say his last name right. I know I wasn't going to say it right. I'm sorry.
You were close.
Mike's a great guy. Mike is very close to our kids in Halifax. He comes through the building, he's sort of the police officer they know. He's in the building, the kids know him. That is I don't know if normal's the way, but classic way most elementary schools have as a tie to the police department. In East Bridgewater, Patty Oakley is the superintendent there. It's very small, the town's very small, they have a very small police office.
West Bridgewater.
Yeah, thank you, West Bridgewater, you're right, it is West Bridgewater. East Bridgewater's Liz, sorry. In West Bridgewater, they have a very small police staff. So what she does is she actually has a small office, and instead of them going to the police department to write their reports, they write their reports in the high school. So that's the way that, they're in the building, they have to get the work done anyway, they can work, but it's sort of a cooperative arrangement because there isn't money to fund the position. So I don't see ours as necessarily being that different. I would love to encourage as much as Mike can be in the building. It works for us, it's wonderful, it's fantastic, as much as Ted can afford for him to spend time. I think it's good for the kids, it's certainly good for us. At Silver Lake, would I love to have a full-time school resource officer? Absolutely. Is it in this budget? No.
And then one other footnote I'd make is it has come up from Kingston committee members here and there, not formally, that they would like to see the other towns share in funding that resource at some point. It's never been a motion, it's never been formal, it's just something that's been said a couple of times during meetings.
And that's not in our budget, just so you understand. So, it would be something that would have to be, I don't know how the towns would work it out because it's outside of our budget. When we had the meeting, it was interesting, the towns pay for it a variety of ways. Some of them are funded through the schools' budgets.
That's how it used to be at Silver Lake. 'Cause
Yeah.
you did have a resource officer, I don't mean to interrupt. but
That's okay.
Many, many years ago, about 10 years ago, we had.
Longer than-
separation.
It was longer than that because it was before I started.
Sergeant
No, it
Kelly.
was, because there was a line, it was
I've been here
years
12.
and years. So it was, you're right, it was during the separation, but we kept it for a little bit of time. I think we cut the hours, but it was a line item on the Silver Lake budget. And so it was shared cost by the community just based on assessment. And then about 3 years ago, Kingston was very generous to offer the resource officers.
I think it's been longer than that.
It's been
Yeah,
longer.
it's definitely been longer than that. But anyway, Kingston, I know, would love, to have some sort of a balance with it. It hasn't been something, to be honest with you, I try not to get in between the towns. They have enough trouble. So, whatever works. We would love to have the supports in the school. We have a great relationship. Anything I need, I literally text the police chiefs, they're on my phone. So, I feel very blessed. I have a great relationship with the police and the fire. So, but it is not in any budget, just so you know.
Guys have been. So the only update from last meeting for you was when I ran the numbers, the towns are looking at a 5.3% assessment increase. And a portion of that, about 1% of that, is due to the fact that the state aid is cut. Net state aid is cut.
You said about 1%?
1% of that, yeah. And what's been forecasted out long-term and what the agreement between the finance committees about the school budget was trying to keep the school total assessment at 3%, so long-term that the towns could fund it when the assessment enrollment changes. So,
Could I just?
Yes.
Does everybody understand how the formula works? I know that you understand it you're very close to the formula.
But as Joy and Paula both mentioned, our budget went up 2.67% from 18 to 19. And what happens is then when we come up with that, we then have to come up with our own revenues that we can offset that with. Once we come up with our own revenues, there have been some shifts in some of those revenues. Some have gone up, some have gone down a little. The next piece that we look at is the Chapter 70 money from the state, what we're going to be getting from the Chapter 70 money. Then as we're getting to the point we're going to apportion it to each of the towns, we then have each town's assessment starts with what the state decides to be the minimum contribution. And then from that point, we build from that. And everything after that is based on your percentage of the region. So there are many influences that impact your total assessment that fall outside of our budget. And it's trying to find that right balancing act. And we tend to be really conservative with our revenues, as you do, because we just don't know what happens if there's a small change. There's such an impact from that. So I just wanted to just bring that up, the piece how there's a little disconnect between the increase in our budget and then the increase in the assessments because of those other influences.
Yeah, and I think I spoke to it last week, that maybe that 3% number needs to be revisited, because 3% is no longer 3%, because the amount of state aid we're getting has changed. So you're not talking dollar to dollar anymore.
Exactly, state, regional, I mean, there's numbers we just can't control.
Exactly.
You know, the only number we can control is the budget.
And out of the budget, the numbers that the superintendent sent the letter that contained the assessment. So I just want to tell you that the capital plan is being funded from E&D again this year. Just so you're aware of that.
How long is that a viable option? Because if we're not able to support,
Same as what we do.
Exactly.
We fund essentially our capital budget out
Yeah.
of free cash, which
Yeah,
is.
exactly what we're doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have worked really hard. I realize how much the towns are struggling with the budgets. So if we can fund our own capital projects, I'm trying to be as, I don't know if self-sufficient is the best word, but as self-sufficient as possible within our own budgets. You know, again, we're not a business. We can't go out and, make money. I mean, we don't have the ability to bring in a restaurant we just can't do that. The kids are really good at culinary if you want to go, but, we don't really have a way of bringing in additional revenue. But, we're wanting to be as fiscally responsible as possible. That E&D, we're trying to use that to fund our capital plan, so.
but eventually there's going to be some big ticket items that come due that's not going to support. I mean, the school is getting
It
older.
could happen, and the same will happen to you, and we'll tell you.
Yeah.
We'll let you know. But, and I don't mean to be fresh.
No, I completely understand. We face the same problem with
Right.
that gap that we use to fund our capital items.
Right.
Some years it's $1 million, some years it's $300,000.
Right.
And some years you have to buy a new ambulance.
Yep.
Some years you have to redo the roof on the school.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And as much as, and we're happy to provide an updated capital plan to you folks so you have it, as we chip away at it, and that's, a difficult priority exercise as well, we tend to then add things that we're finding. Our new director of facilities has been wonderful in looking at the facilities and unfortunately finding things that need to be addressed, quite frankly. So as we chip away at that, we're adding to it. But if you thought it was helpful, we can certainly forward you a copy of where we stand now with it.
I'm just concerned about the long-term viability of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, and I don't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
that is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, maintaining a building isn't like, swapping out programs or taking out a program. I mean, a building is a building, grounds is a ground. I can't make roof problems go away. I can't make potholes and parking lots go away. You might be able to do something with a program at some point because you have to financially. Bottom line, just like you're maintaining your own home, your problems don't go away, so they have to be addressed. We'll continue to I think the subcommittee that looks at that has done a wonderful job of prioritizing things. And again, the facilities director has been a godsend as well, to be honest with you, helping us with that.
I think it would be helpful for them to have an updated capital plan, just so that we can look at it and see what else is in the pipeline that may affect our assessment.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have the this year's one page, Gordon, when you went to the meeting.
Yeah.
the 5-year plan, the next couple of years, we need to build out more.
Okay.
So that will probably be happening more in the fall. We had a 5-year plan, I think we're in year 4 of the plan, so we're sort of at the point that we need to sort of build out going forward.
Agreed.
But
Has it been that long since the envelope
Envelopes,
thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was
It was a couple of years ago,
12,
wasn't it?
13, 14?
It's at least 14.
Is this our third year with, we built $200,000 in every year
Oh,
to
yeah, this is the
just
third
work
year.
on the maintenance of the building, try to preserve the building and take care of all those items that could become problems in the future. We're committed to making sure that every year 200,000 goes towards that.
Did they have a recommended time to come back and do an envelope review?
I'm not sure, what the plan went up to 10 years,
10
and it
years.
scheduled out the maintenance for,
Okay.
what are those items we should be looking at? And so right now, we're prioritizing what are those items that we want to be taken care of during July 1 starts. Have things come risen to a priority that maybe we're further down the list just based on the events that have been happening in our building?
Yeah, but we've got some time, I think, before we would expend that. Again, part of the problem when you have an envelope study is they tell you everything that's wrong. That's wrong. One of the problems about having done, ignorance can be bliss sometimes.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions for Silver Lake?
I don't. You were Bill, right?
Yeah, and I'm still a no, so it's gonna be Bill. If he wants to
Make the motion.
reconsider.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Okay. Do I have to technically second that?
No, anybody can say.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion to reconsider.
All right. All those in favor to reconsider?
Aye.
Aye.
Still a no, so 4-1. Okay.
Discussion.
Is there discussion on revoting?
So just to, your vote last week, you voted on this last week, what was the vote?
It was not to recommend that. Well, it wasn't to.
It was a 2-2 tie.
2-2.
It was.
Diane and I voted yay, Bill and Gordon voted no.
So there was no recommendation. So that's what's printed in the warrant.
So wait a minute, if Bill voted no, then he can't vote.
No, he has to make the.
He has to make the motion to reconsider.
He voted for the, he voted no for the budget, yes, he was the one, yeah.
So, is there discussion?
I supported it just based on the fact that I thought they worked pretty hard to get within the 3%, that we gave them the directive. I understand that the number went up because of the change of state aid, but they were working without that information developing the budget. Are there things that could have been cut out? Perhaps, but I think they worked very diligently to provide the best that they could with the restrictions we gave them, and they fell within what we directed them, in principle.
Okay.
I think I'm personally, and I appreciate the overview of the programs, I think I'm still a little bit concerned about the program expansion in this particular fiscal year, only because I worry that in future years, we're gonna continue trying to chase the charters in building in these programs, and the charters will continue to outpace, the public secondary schools regardless. So I think, and I understand being in higher education, that's an ongoing problem. But I think that there might need to be kind of broader discussions about how to meet not only student needs, but then also by the time they get to where I see them, how are we preparing them really for those next steps?
Okay. So I'll call for a vote. If there's no other discussion. All those in favor of Silver Lake's number of, well, you need a motion first. So is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve $4,456,412.00 for line number 75, Silver Lake Assessment.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
75.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? No.
Nay.
Bill, I didn't hear you.
No.
Okay, so 3-2. 2-3.
3 votes.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Yep. Thanks. Thanks for listening to us again. Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Night, guys.
Going back to my school.
All right, can we take like a 2-minute stand-up break? Sure. Or lay on the floor?
One question, I guess, is going to be, you still need to make a recommendation of need some
For a dollar amount.
Do you want to do that now? Well, we're in recess. We'll just leave.
I just wanted to point that out. Okay.
When we get back, we'll...
Oh, my back. Yep. I can move over, Bill.
It's all right, I'll go wrong.
On him that weekend.
Yeah, you died. Stand right on my throat.
Night off.
You should turn over and let me walk on your back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You all right, Gordon? Yeah. All right.
Killed him.
Hang in there. Thank you,
Hey,
guys.
Jonathan.
Thanks, Joe. All right.
Hey, you guys done with hops yet? We need some more members on the finance committee.
Oh, give us 6 more months.
Okay, hold you to it.
Hey, we probably need to come up with a new clerk too.
Do we need to vote that tonight? Probably.
Budget goes back.
The selectmen?
Oh, jeez. We killed him.
You go long,
Yes,
instead of
yes,
actually get.
Are we off camera?
No, what's the...
I don't know.
Or in the middle.
Gordon's off camera.
One town says.
I don't know, I'm probably still on camera or something.
Halifax was the same.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna be obliged.
Well, if we don't tonight, we should next meeting.
What?
New clerk.
A new clerk, we should probably put that on the agenda.
A new clerk, who is the clerk?
Linda.
Linda.
Oh. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I'm gonna go with Spock.
What's that?
It's an advanced rock, paper, scissors. Advanced Rochambeau.
How do you do it?
Rock, paper, scissors, lizard Spock.
Right?
I was
Big fan.
We could play something else.
I do scissors a lot. I should have
We
probably
could
typed
play
it.
rock, paper, scissors.
I figured you're more for a rock girl.
Yeah.
How late do you think we're gonna be here?
More than eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you need more coffee?
I never understood that rock, paper, scissors thing.
Yeah, right.
We'll get the other one?
If we're gonna be here, well, I'm gonna go to another coffee.
I thought you meant you had something special with the coffee going on.
We'd like to get Charlie in bed by 10:30.
You're.
And it takes them an hour to get home.
Because I need your bright-eyed and bushy tailed.
I'm up at 3:30 tomorrow. Maybe at the jail like 5:30.
No, tomorrow night.
Maybe, we'll see how.
See you guys.
Oh, what are you doing?
Was like-
I'm having a hot flash.
I'm going by.
It's a hot flash day.
Thanks for the info.
That's all I've been doing today. We're under control and now it's a good night.
We can do the other ones are all printed. We don't
I
have.
realize that.
Wager person.
Can I have one? Did you ever get hot flash?
No, I have on a weekend shirt, a sweatshirt, and a down jacket.
Can I get up?
I
was just about to put my fleece back on.
So they were talking about the DND. Yeah, so that's basically their free cash, so the money.
So we'll need to vote a number that you guys will support.
It's the same thing.
And I'm guessing that number is
Take 25 grand off.
25,736, less than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you wanna just-
Or just take 25 grand off?
Yeah. And just vote that?
150.
When's our next meeting?
Next Monday? No.
The following Monday?
Next Monday's a holiday.
20-something.
And this- and we can't do any of the zoning stuff because they haven't met yet. So there's really nothing else to do tonight.
Just the rest of the
We have
article
to finish
too.
wage and personnel buildings from new, and
Okay.
there wasn't really much on the horizon.
But historically, they just keep it.
But we can finish the one.
Yeah.
What do we have left in the warrant? I thought it was just zoning. I thought we did that. There were 3 articles we did. Yeah, we did. We voted it that night.
You didn't do this question.
Yeah, we did.
There's like 11.
Oh, I thought we did all the money articles on that.
Oh, on the capital item.
Yeah.
You did the capital item ones, you did, yeah.
Yeah,
We
sorry.
did some of them.
That's why
Yeah.
I spewed germs everywhere.
I thought you wanted to blow up. Oh, yeah, and I'm going like this.
Yeah, blow it towards you.
I know
There you
you're
go.
pushing it towards yourself.
We did? Alright, so let's jump to
What's
the...
the back?
Do you wanna do this
We're
first?
gonna go,
Oh yeah, let's do the school first.
Back.
So,
Alright,
so we have to make a motion to reconsider again?
correct.
Yep.
Or no, because we had a motion to reconsider and the new number failed?
The new number failed, so we can make a motion and
Yeah.
then make a motion at the new
Alright,
number.
so will somebody make a motion to reconsider so either Bill
Or
or
Melinda.
Melinda?
No, you voted and it failed, so you can vote again.
We don't have to make another motion to reconsider?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure we
No,
do.
because it failed.
Andy wants to know what you're doing.
We're gonna vote the school
We're
number.
removing, we're gonna move 75 again, yeah.
Yeah,
It's in the warrant, it's line 77. The Silver Lake assessment.
we have it as 75.
yeah,
In the warrant?
No.
no, no.
In the Sandy
In the Sandy
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet.
Right, okay.
Well, still,
In the
which is
warrant, life.
Stuff
In
is
the
going on.
warrant, it's line 70.
Yeah, we're gonna use your spreadsheet for now.
Yes, Sandy's spreadsheet.
Right,
Just
just so you know.
Okay.
For our life.
The name is mentioned, not just the number.
Just Sandy.
So 75 alias 77.
Yeah, that's fine.
AKA, the Silver Lake General Budget.
So the Silver Lake assessment is, so,
Somebody moved to reconsider.
You don't need to.
We don't need to? Alright.
Yeah, it's still on your, it's still sitting there on the table in essence.
alright.
Yeah.
You got a new motion?
Just,
I'd like to make a motion to approve line 75/77 in the warrant, Silver Lake assessment, for $4,430,676, which reflects a difference of $150,000.
No,
Can you give me
no,
that number?
25,000.
25,000.
25,000.
150 is what we,
$4,430,000.
676.
which would recommend a change of this being 150 instead of 175.
Yeah, you just said it. You were cut. Yeah, that's right.
Alright.
That's good. 4,430,676.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I make a motion as second, $4,430,676.
Okay. Any discussion?
I think it just reflects the principle that we held, that we wanted to keep them to.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0.
Number 4430676.
Correct.
Okay. So what do we have besides wage to finish? Special?
Special meeting.
And then zoning articles. Road acceptance. So we'll wait on those.
So we're going to next, Gordon.
What's that?
What are we going to next?
I guess we're gonna go back to wage. Two.
To Article 2, number 3.
Okay, to reclassify the position of building inspector of buildings, building commissioner from a grade 10 to a grade 11. Charlie?
Before you continue, I wanted to put something on the table in essence. I'm questioning whether you have a conflict of interest,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on that.
Okay. where I voted the last time. Can I get a approval from town council? Yeah,
Well, I'm
excuse
not
me.
asking about anything from the last time. I can't run the time machine backwards.
Okay,
I'm just suggesting you may not want to continue to participate on this subject.
okay. I will recuse myself then. I'll go sit on the other side.
Okay, Article 2, Number 3, to reclassify the position of Inspector of Building/Building Commissioner from a grade 10 to a grade 11. When we did the new study, not Dawn's study, but even in Dawn's study, he came between the benchmark of a grade 11. And then when we did the new study that Sue put together, he was within the benchmark. So we felt as though it should be regraded to a grade 11. So right now, the building commissioner is at a grade 10 step. He's at a step 5 right now, but come July 1st, he'll be at a step 6 at $67,809. We proposed he goes to a grade 11, which would put him at step 3 at $69,590, a difference of $1,781. And our decisions too were based on when we hired him. It was tough finding somebody to come within that grade, to find somebody.
I did my calculations.
In your calculations, yes.
I wasn't part of wage and personality, I just
No,
happened to be.
no, that's actually part of Sue's study, so thank you.
So what I did is I did what the hourly was. So our building inspector makes $29.41 an hour, and the average is $38.82. But a grade 11 is what your recommendation is.
Correct.
Which is, I don't know how much an hour that
Okay, I don't have my calculator.
Can you repeat those?
is. Sure. Our salary is $29.41 an hour, and the average hourly rate for building inspector is $38.82, based on.
And that's based on the grade 10, step 5, correct?
No, I'm just telling you what Sue, I just took her spreadsheet that you guys passed out, and I just used my phone to do the calculations to figure out an hourly rate. You know, so for instance, one of the towns was 36 hours, one was 35 hours, one was 40 hours, one was 20 hours, another 35, another 40. And then so I figured out what the hourly rate that they paid their inspector is, and then I did the average hourly rate based on their hours. So that's how I got the $38.82, and ours is $29.41, and you guys told me that at that meeting.
Correct.
So
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the difference between the building inspector and the health inspector? Aren't they the same grade? Shouldn't they be the same
It's the
hourly rate?
steps,
No,
because
yes.
this year he started at step 4 and went to step 5 during the fiscal year. And during next fiscal year, he'll start at step 5 and go to step 6 if he remains at grade 10. That's the difference. They're both grade 10s currently, but the reason why the salaries are different.
Yeah, because he's at a step 5 right now, but July 1st, the start of the new fiscal year, he'll go to a step 6.
what's the hourly for that?
The salary is $67,809.
Okay, thank you.
But again, just,
Mm-hmm.
I thought when we were looking at this, we were looking at the range of the wages, not the person in the position.
68.
We are looking at the range of just the position, not the person.
So if you're looking at the range of the position, what is the range that we're looking at moving to for these positions?
So the range would be the grade 11, step 1, between step 1 and step 6. I don't have the salaries in front of me. Sandy, where's the,
So you're proposing.
So the wage scale,
yeah, we're just proposing steps.
the wage scale for a grade 10 position for FY18 is from 57,873 to 66,643. 66,643 is grade 6.
Can you say those?
What is it?
No, you mean a step 6.
A step
Yeah.
6, right. So The scale,
Mm-hmm,
the low end, step 1 is 64,781. And I'm talking about FY18 wages.
right.
And step 6 is 66,643.
Okay, but the,
A grade 11, step 1 is 64,781. And it goes to 73,833.
mhm. And that's not including the 2%. My figures are including the 2%.
Those figures there, yeah.
Yes.
FY19.
So it's basically a 10% bump to go from a 10 to an 11
No.
in the range. 58,000 to 64,000, $6,000 difference.
64.
And then 67,000 to 74,000, $7,000 difference. It's roughly a 10% bump.
Not immediate.
No, but if you were comparing
Oh, yeah, no,
1 to 1, 6 to
If
6,
you- yeah.
the range as a whole, you're looking at a 10% increase.
What did you get for the low for 10?
57,873, so 58,000, and just using round numbers.
It would be the same with the health agent going from a grade 10 to a grade 11.
What I think has to be considered is when this job was looked at in Dawn's survey, this job graded very high
Mm-hmm,
because of the conditions and because of
the
the
licenses.
expertise, the licenses that needed to be got for this job. I think back, I want to say back in the day, I feel very old, but when I first started working here, we had a building inspector who was a building inspector. State laws changed. Now they had to become building commissioners. There was a lot more schooling that had to go on. Now there's stretch codes and a lot more involved with that position. It's grown similar to the way the health agent position had more requirements and mostly state mandated. So did the building inspector position, ended up having a lot more requirements.
And that was even based on the study that's 14 months old. It came in higher.
So what's the lowest grade for this position?
Well, right now it's a grade 10.
That's the
That's what we have right
Yeah.
now.
So the starting is 10, grade 10, step
Well,
1?
what we're trying to do is to have it from a 10 be graded to an 11, so that if, as Tom had said for the health agent, hopefully we'll be able to keep our building commissioner, but if we had to rehire a building commissioner, we'd be able to get one,
They'd come in
a good one.
They'd come in at a grade 11.
Yes.
They'd come in as grade 11,
Yeah,
possibly a step 1.
Which is 64,781.
yeah.
And then the grade 6 the step 6 for grade 10 is 66,643, so there's an overlap.
There is an overlap between grade 10 and grade 11, yes.
Okay.
And similar to
Yeah.
the other one, Diane, so this would put us right about in the middle.
Yes,
Of our
correct. That'd be,
benchmark,
yeah.
Okay.
So if we bump this rule from grade 10, step 5, or soon to be 6,
Mhm.
July, to grade 11, step 1,
It'd be grade 11, step 3.
No,
Because
Okay.
that's his anniversary date, so he's gonna
Okay.
go to step 6 on
Without
July
major
1st.
personnel bylaw, if
Yeah.
they go up a class, it has to be at
More-
least a 2% increase.
Yes.
okay.
So that we
And
don't
it's
give
not-
someone a promotion and give them $1 more.
Or else we could have put him at a grade 11, step 2, but because of the bylaw, because of the 2%, we have to put him at a step 3.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the numbers, but now
Yeah.
I know
Mhm.
it's explained, thank you.
Yep.
Kim, I'm sorry I don't have my copy from last week. Of the neighboring communities that we use as benchmark, how many consider this a 40-hour week position, and how many consider it less?
Well, you got a 40, a 35, Berkeley, who, for instance, Berkeley for their health agent just has a 3 board member, but their building inspector is a 10-hour position. Carver is 19 hours, Dayton is 40 hours, Freetown is 36 hours, Hanson is 19 hours, Lakeville is 40 hours, Rochester is 30 hours, And Whitman, this is kind of crazy. Whitman pays $64,000 a year for only 20 hours.
But he also fulfills a role as building
Zoning.
maintenance supervisor, so.
No, is he?
Oh,
No, this is yes for zoning. I'm only telling you what the notes
Mhm.
reflect. I didn't do the research.
Yeah, I think
just got
you're
this in a
correct
meeting
now.
like you did, and I
You're
just
correct with
looked
that.
at
I
it
know,
and
yeah.
did the calculation on
So of the 10 towns, 4 deem it as a 40-hour week position and 3 deem it as 30 hours, between 30 and 40 hours.
But I don't know that they got into the whole zoning and, the specifics. I think what we're looking at right now are hourly wages, like what's the right wage?
Yeah, we didn't have job
Yeah.
descriptions for any of these either.
So now, I think you're looking at what's the correct wage for this particular position. And when we look at the hourly wage, that's what I calculated
Mhm.
out. The average hourly wage is $38.82.
So not to like get too specific, but
Yeah.
do you mind if I look at that really? Because I
Sure.
think there might be a difference between the average and then calculating the median, and the median might give us a better reflection of like what the actual mid value is.
Professor.
Sorry.
I'll give it to you. I did it the old-fashioned average way.
Well, no, but if one's pulling the average one way, that there's like one outlier that's pulling the average, that might
Yeah.
give us a different frame of reference for what the middle would be.
Okay.
You do a trim mean.
I don't know what that means. So.
Knock out the high and the low.
Yeah, dump them.
yeah, I'm lucky if I can add them, that's it.
But if you start doing that, then you start doing it for other positions
Yeah.
too, then you're kind of moving
Yeah.
things around, so. I don't know, I'm just saying, should we keep, I'm not officially on wage and personnel
Well,
yet.
and this was based on, too, on Dawn's from 14 months ago. He was below.
Okay,
So we felt at that time, even without these new figures, that it should have been moved to a grade 11.
okay. Yeah,
So while Melinda's crunching the numbers there, can someone explain to me what the inspector of buildings does? I mean, to me it would be, yep, that's a building.
yeah, no, Charlie's gonna be much more eloquent about it than I am, because it's the one area
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not.
ours does 2 different areas. One, and there's more than that, but the basic 2. One, as you said, that's building, but it's making sure, in fact, the plans that are coming in meet all the building codes, including now the stretch code, which is an environmental and energy efficiency. So and the more complicated the building, the more complicated the code ends up being. So it's not simply, okay, you got a set of building plans done, okay. It's in fact making sure the plans have the information necessary so that the buildings are being built properly according to code, going out then also doing all the inspections. And this includes not just new buildings, but all the additions and everything else that happen. Second major area would be on the zoning issue. We don't get, unlike the building, where one hopes eventually we get some money, since of the issuance of a building permit, zoning questions, we don't get any money for. That's, in fact, working with potential applicants who are coming in. It can be everything from, okay, do you have the setbacks and such correct in terms of zoning, to, is the use in fact a permitted use? Is it this use? Is it that use? Is it grandfathered? Is it not grandfathered? What special permits and variances might you need going through that? And you can then segue into other parts of that in the sense of if you're dealing with zoning violations, if people are coming in with concerns about that, whether in fact this is something that's going on as a legitimate use. He's been working now also on the building side of it. He's been working a lot with Kathy Dryan on building code violations in the sense of buildings that have been built, they might have been built 50 years ago, 100 years ago, but are now decaying, and we have people living in them and such. Or we never got the building permits in the first place. In essence, we get something that's being used as a legal structure for residences, and we've been running into that more than we'd like to. And again, I can give you, all of the job descriptions are public documents. I can provide that, but I can't, I can even put it out if you wanted to right now. But those are the basic areas. has to work with the planning board and the zoning board of appeals a lot. He's also, in essence, a supervisor for the regulatory staff, which includes 3 part-time people. One who functions as the building inspector, not assistant building inspector, but administrative assistant in the building inspector's office, but also the planning board administrative assistant. Then the fabulous Conservation Commission administrative assistant.
Fabulous.
And let me tell you, you gotta pay extra to have someone supervise that, people like that.
That's not very nice,
I bring you up, I take you down.
right?
And then also the zoning board
Did I mess it up?
of appeals
Did I mess it up?
administrative assistant. And doing the coordination of all that, the 3 people who do that work.
Okay, so I think with everything that you just said, you answered my follow-on question, which was for the town of Halifax. It sounds like it's a 40-hour role at least.
Yeah, I mean, if someone proposed, I'm not saying anyone's coming in here tonight or tomorrow and proposing, let's cut it down to half-time or something, but let me put it this way, Rob works a lot with me on zoning issues. He's worked a lot, and whoever comes in, so skip Rob for a moment, whoever comes in and does the job is probably going to be working a lot with me on zoning issues. We do not have a town planner at all. We have no economic development, we got nothing like, person or anything like that. Which means, and it just, I have a fair amount of experience specifically with Halifax, more in general, town government and zoning, because I've been dealing with zoning issues a lot, wherever the building inspector's been, whether it was Jack Doucette, whether it was Tom Williams, and now Rob. And reading law, I mean, trying to parse what we're trying to do with the language we've got versus what's in the state statutes and stuff. If someone came in and said, yeah, you only need someone 20 hours a week because that's all time to spend on building permits.
Did it come in close?
And I wouldn't pack up the next day, but it'd be, okay, exactly who's doing all this other stuff? Because there isn't anybody else.
That's close to
Someone has to
Tuesday.
make those decisions, and whoever is in that position, I mean, we're dealing right now, we're dealing with a number of lawsuits or potential lawsuits on a number of zoning issues or a number of building issues. And so, whether you like it or not, somebody has to hold the bag on those things. And if it's not, you need someone who's capable and who's gonna be here 40 hours a week to do that. It's like with the town accountant position, Sandy's looked at, when she's been looking at positions in comparable towns. Some of these places, the town accountants, they're 10 or 20 hours a week. I have absolutely the foggiest idea how they manage to make that work. I mean, and it's the same thing for building inspector. I don't, in a smaller town like Plimpton, and Tom can speak to Plimpton, you can imagine that it's less than 40 hours. And there have been towns I've worked for that have been less than 40 hours. But despite the fact that we don't seem to be generating a huge amount of activity, there's enough stuff going on and enough issues that you want somebody there full-time.
Can I ask Tom how much this come to make an hour, just out of curiosity?
$35 an hour. That's for, yeah.
Just
But you're not
pure-
zoning,
just-
right?
No, and I don't do zoning, no.
Now, Charlie, I'm not sure in the job description, does it require certain licenses?
Eventually, you have to
It
have
does.
certain licenses.
Okay.
But I think that Kim mentioned earlier, you can bring somebody in as a local building inspector. Within a certain number of years, I think it's 2 or 3 years, they have to be 18 months, okay. They have to be certified as a building commissioner or inspector of buildings. Inspector of buildings. Building commissioner is the super overseer of all things. In this town, it's the same position, but, and it's not, I'm sorry, Tom, I'm gonna pick on you, it's not Assessor's 101 course. It's not a few hours
Right.
and get certified. It's a number of tests and a whole heck of a lot of time. Because the thing is, they will grant you extensions, but at some point they will run out, in the sense of, if you haven't completed all the tests within the 18 months, 6 months, pardon? 6 months, okay. You are out. You no longer can, we're required to have a building inspector of buildings. If the person who's holding a job doesn't fulfill those requirements within the allotted time, including the extensions, we have to wait and abide by. And I've seen it not happen here, but I've seen it happen in other communities. And I mean, setting aside that it's painful to the person, it's painful for us, then we have to find somebody else. And, well, you know, again, it's a situation, you know, I would expect when and if Rob leaves, we need someone who's going to be a local inspector, has that basic level of knowledge. And then, you know, hope that that person is educated enough and is going to work hard enough on becoming inspector of buildings. Obviously, it'd be wonderful to get an inspector of buildings, but there's no guarantee again at the pay rate we're paying that that's going to happen. But, so there's a certain level coming in, but within a certain time frame, you've got to be certified.
Final question then.
Yes.
Is it the same requirements for all the towns that we're benchmarking against?
We can't answer that because we don't have the job descriptions.
Well, but if you're talking about the inspector of buildings, yes. Everybody, all the head honcho in each community has to become the inspector of buildings and has to get that certification.
But they may not have the zoning.
And they may not have a staff that they're responsible for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently an unruly staff.
Yeah.
Do you wonder why I don't go up to that part of the building?
Fear or better judgment, Charlie?
You go, Kendra.
Right?
So I don't even have to bother, I have no worries whatsoever.
Nope,
Because Rob takes care of it.
that's right. Don't even need to come through the door.
So, I did the average, but maybe,
The
I
mean.
think Melinda did the median, which I think,
Yeah.
I think so. The median value will be where 50% of the values fall above and 50% fall below. So that's, I think, a better read on where the middle is. So that the mean was about $38. So the median's going to be close. The median's $34.86. So it's close, but those high $60 an hour ones pull up the average a little bit
and then the
more.
lower ones pull down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like that one from Berkeley will pull it down.
Yeah, because that's a pretty big spread between
Yeah.
the highest and the
Right.
lowest.
Yeah.
But if you want to, so between towns numbered 5 and 6, we'd
Yeah.
find $34.86.
Yeah.
Okay, no further discussion. Anybody, so I guess I'm the only one that is able to make this motion, so I will make a motion to reconsider Section 3 of
Article 2.
Article 2 to reclassify the position of Inspector of Buildings / Building Commissioner from grade 10 to grade 11. Is there a second?
I will second that emotion.
Emotion, huh?
Emotion. Emotion. I'm getting very emotional. I'll second
I thought you were going to start
motion.
singing.
I don't think so. Maybe a little dance.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so I think the $34, whatever number Linda threw out there, I think that's a significant difference between the $29.41 and the $38.82, and even the $34, whatever cent she mentioned, is also significant in relation to the original proposal of $38.82.
No, the original
Yeah.
proposal was 3303.
$33.03?
Yes.
Okay.
The original
3882 was the
proposal
high.
3303. Yeah.
Was the average.
So, and that's
Yeah.
3480, yeah, is the
Okay.
median. And he's making 2941.
Yeah, okay, I must have misread it. No further questions.
Okay.
Your Honor.
I'm just going to voice the same objection I had for the previous article. I just don't like to see special treatment. I know it's not designed as special treatment, but it can be perceived that way, and I don't like to proliferate that.
Understood.
All right. All those in favor of reclassifying the position of Inspector of Building?
Make a motion.
Reconsider first.
Oh,
We did.
No.
Oh, no.
No, we moved in second. We didn't vote the reconsideration.
We didn't- Yeah.
all those in favor of reconsidering?
Aye.
All right. Is there a motion to reclassify the position?
I'll make a motion to reclassify the position of Inspector of Buildings / Building Commissioner from a grade 10 to a grade 11.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? One abstention. a recusal.
So if you're gonna talk about the other one, I think she should do the median, because
Mhm.
my homework is wrong.
You failed. No soup for you.
I know, she's gonna show me the special formula.
Okay. Okay, the next one under Article 2, number 4, to reclassify the position of water superintendent from a grade 11 to a grade 12A, which was a grade 12, but the grade 12 included holiday pay. So we're putting in an article to add a grade 12A, which is the base pay only of grade 12, not the holiday pay included. So that would, this water superintendent right now is at a grade 11. He's at the highest step at $76,817. And we propose for him to go to a grade 12A at a step 1, which would be $79,002, a difference of $2,185.
I thought you said 79,000.
$79,002, yes.
Sandy, do you have the top end of that
67?
range?
Okay,
I
that's,
think
he's,
that's 3798, right?
Nailed it.
huh?
Right, did you already do it?
No.
Oh.
Okay, so he's at a grade 11, step 6, at 76,008,
76. Okay.
yes, 817. Going to a grade 12A, step 1, at $79,002. The difference of $2,185. And we also based our decision on 2 at one time. Our current water superintendent was leaving, and for us to get any applicants, it was almost impossible.
So, the base,
Do we-
the
Go
grade
ahead.
12 base pay, step 6, that chart is 85,226.
Okay.
So because of the bylaw and the 2%, he would start at step 1.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reconsider our previous vote to reclassify the position of water and superintendent from grade 11 to 12A. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Discussion. All those in favor of reconsidering? Aye.
Hey, Gordon, are you voting or?
I don't know, Charlie.
As far as we don't have a conflict with this.
Come on up.
Come on back.
So the median for the towns that do actually have this position and have the data, the median value is $39.31.
What did I say? It was 3798.
3723.
37.23 is the average.
Oh, okay, and so his would be at 79,000.
That's $79,002.
3798.
Yeah. So he's even below the average. And these positions really were very different from town to town.
Yeah.
So that was, and in Dawn's study too, I'll go back to 14 months ago in Dawn's original reclassification. We were basing our decision on that too at that time, without even this current study.
And again, this was something that was brought
That was brought
to
forward
forward in the
January 2017. Correct.
Okay.
So, just a question on that, bringing up the meeting minutes from that day.
Mhm.
Did you guys discuss the town, it says a memo from the town accountant, town clerk, treasurer collector dated December 26, 2016, requesting the reclassification of the assistant town accountant, assistant town clerk, assistant treasurer, and assistant collector.
Everybody came forward after the first 3 reclassifications. Everybody came forward with that.
It says that it happened at that night. On that, just from those meeting minutes. So I just want to make sure that when we look at this, that those did come forward at that night as
At
well.
that meeting, yes, everything was mentioned at that meeting that night.
But these positions you didn't.
Those were the ones that were presented to the board first.
But they didn't get reclassified.
No, they did not. They were going to be with the whole study, and then we put the whole study on hold.
So at that meeting, you had the water commissioner requesting the water superintendent.
Mhm.
You had the water commissioners asking for establishment on-call outside water department employees. Then you had the town accountant, town clerk, treasurer collector requesting reclassification of the assistant. Town accountant, assistant town clerk, assistant treasurer, and assistant collector. Then you had building commissioner. Then you had from building commissioner requesting the secretary, two secretary positions, grade 4, on the regulatory, 2 administrative assistants. And then Chief Broderick requesting the police chief administrative assistant to be reclassified to a grade 7. John Delano, Board of Health, reclassified to health inspector reclassified to a grade 11. And then you have town accountant requesting the establishment of human resource director, which we dealt with before. Let's not talk about that. Sandy.
Okay, so what you're reading is the meeting minutes to the public hearing.
Yeah.
All right, so these positions were brought to wage and personnel before, and then
They were on the
there was a
agenda.
pile-on
Yeah.
effect, and I'm one of them. But I think that's what Diane was trying to say. They were brought to them before the
Yeah.
public hearing.
These positions were on the agenda to be written at that public meeting. And then at that meeting, because, and you'll see it in the minutes, that everybody was piling on.
Okay.
Can I?
Yes.
So, I think I asked this at a wage and personnel meeting last couple weeks, whenever you guys met on a Friday. Were these the positions that were the most, according to Dawn's study, the most out of whack, with the exception of non-union, with the exception of poor Charlie, who's so out of whack?
That's hard to answer.
So look at him
I'd have
smiling
to-
back there.
I'd have to-
No, he's so underpaid.
I think it was-
He's so underpaid, we have.
Right, it was,
so
and
underpaid.
that was, I felt the same way that Mel felt, like everybody should be reclassified. It was the higher positions that were more out of whack, that didn't fall within the benchmark of the reclassification for 14 months ago. It was the higher positions that seemed to be more out of range,
Okay, all right, thank you.
yes, including Charlie.
Yes. Which is really out of whack.
I know, I agree,
So,
At some point, we're gonna have to address it.
yes.
yeah. So are these three reacting to the report?
These
No.
three are the reaction from what was brought forward at the public meeting in 2017.
So
It was only
these three
these three.
started,
Yes.
these three, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What I understand
Mm-hmm.
is that what you're saying is these three positions, by first coming, saying I need to be classified, started
Exactly.
everybody else coming in and then started the classification.
That was on our agenda for the meeting in January
And
2017.
triggered
And it
us
triggered-
hiring Dawn
Yes,
to
okay.
create
Yes.
the study, to take a look at
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And hence, everybody that was in the audience at the public meeting came forth and wanted to be reclassified too. They wanted to be part of the whole reclassification.
Okay, so these three did not,
At that time, we were obligated to look at those three.
which kicked off the study.
Which
So it
kicked
wasn't
off
in
the study.
response to a study, it caused a study.
Though, not necessarily
No.
those three positions.
No.
When those three positions came,
Yeah, like there's an avalanche after that.
the
Yes.
avalanche, in order to prevent the avalanche, look at the whole.
Yes. That's why we decided to hire Dawn for the reclassification. Because it was only fair, because the grades weren't looked at since, what, was it 1994? I mean, yes, they got their percents over the years, but the grades weren't looked at.
You know, I would say part of it is the competitive nature. Part of it is the technical expertise is different than it was, we're talking closing on 25 years ago. You know, as an example for the water superintendent, what state and federal regulations are today is not what they were in 1994. They're much stricter.
Tell me about it. I know a lot of the things that went into that lane.
We have the same as last year.
So, not to mention
Yeah.
homeland security issues.
Right.
Gene.
Hi.
Mhm.
So, but in order to get something talked about at the public hearing, that all has to be in by a deadline.
That had to be in by-
So all
correct.
that stuff was asked for and then discussed at the public hearing. Is that right? Just
No,
clarifying.
no, not everybody's reclassification, just those particular reclassifications were put in before the public hearing.
Just these 5 positions that were, or 3 positions?
3
that were
positions,
made?
correct.
And then the fourth one, I don't know, because I didn't attend all your
Yeah,
meetings.
the
but-
4th one is a different, totally different.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody in the audience also requested to be reclassified. Yes, Barbara? Oh, I'm not supposed to
I
ask.
can't hold my tongue.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We get a directive from Charlie stating if you have any wage and personnel matters, they have to be into the town clerk's office and a copy to finance,
Mhm.
wage and personnel by a certain date. And then they will be discussed at a public hearing in January. At that time, there were more than 3 in the folder. There were 8. And they were all discussed, Gordon just read them all at the public hearing, at which time there were too many coming forward. I think we need to have a reclassification study. It went forward, Mr. Jacobs was hired, and we went from there. So I think it's a little disingenuous to say that it was only those 3 that came forward, because there were far more in the folder that you spoke to at that meeting. And I think
I don't
that's
recall what
what's
the other
trying to be
ones
made.
were.
They were, you're right, absolutely right, Barbara, they were in the folder. But those 3 had been brought to wage and personnel previously at previous meetings.
Okay.
They had been brought up.
It's a matter of semantics.
No, I
Keep
know.
referring to the January meeting, and that's not what happened at the January.
It wasn't that.
Just
there was only
reading
3
those
in the
minutes,
folder.
though, it says that those letters for those positions that we're talking about reclassifying tonight came in December.
Right,
So
because, right.
Along
Because
with
they
the
were
other,
told to put the. well,
They have
put
to
the
be in by a
letter
certain
folder.
date in December
Yeah.
for the
and
January
I
meeting.
can't go back to 17 on the minutes because then they're not there. It's only 2017 that's uploaded online, so I can't tell you what happened in the previous.
Right. So speaking to that, when you had mentioned that other people didn't come forward, other people did come forward on that January meeting, and they had to have their requests in by the 30th of December.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, and they're all listed. So
That's why I asked the question, was it just those 3?
Other people did have to have their requests in by the 30th.
All requests had to be in by the 30th,
Yes.
correct?
So
I
it's
don't have them
the
all.
So why,
so it's the 11th. So the meeting took place on January 11, and it lists on the. So it says memo from the Board of Water Commissioners dated December 22nd, requesting the water superintendent be reclassified to the grade 12. A memo from the Board of Water Commissioners dated December 22nd, 2016, requesting the establishment of an on-call system for outside water department employees. A memo from the town accountant, town clerk, town treasurer collector dated December 28th, 2016, requesting the reclassification of the assistant town clerk, assistant accountant, assistant treasurer, and assistant collector to grade 8. Memo from the Board of Selectmen dated December 27th, 2016, requesting the reclassification of the building commissioner from building commissioner to a grade 11. A memo from the building commissioner dated December 27th, 2016, requesting 2 secretary 2 grade 4 positions of the regulatory board be upgraded to the administrative assistants. A memo from the police chief Broderick dated December 27th, 2016, requesting the police chief administrative assistant be reclassified to a grade 7. A memo from John Delano, Board of Health chairman, dated December 27th, 2016, requesting reclassification of the health inspector to a grade 11. A memo from the town accountant dated December 28th, 2016, requesting establishment of a human resource director. So that was what,
We're not talking about that.
We're not talking
Yeah, so we'll skip that one. But that, so it has all those dates in there, so those letters were all received as part of that.
So why were the other 5 not here?
I can't answer that right now. I'd have to go back and read the minutes again. These department heads met with us. I don't recall any other department heads meeting with us at that time to reclassify.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If it wasn't for the financial deficit that we were in,
Mm-hmm.
would the wage and personnel have brought forward the entire,
We would have brought forward the entire reclassification.
so you fact,
But I don't feel as though we were ready at that time because of the survey was 14 months old.
oh, okay.
So it would have had to been reevaluated, the whole survey.
Okay.
So we paid for a survey and did nothing with it?
No, we got a lot of
Still
information
working
out of
with
it. We're still
Is that-
working with
We
it.
haven't given it
Yeah.
up. We're
No.
still working.
No, we got,
Is it still valid?
yeah,
The wage numbers,
Yeah.
but the grading is all valid.
yeah, the grading's all valid. We got a lot of information from Mr. Jacobs. It's just the salaries have to be relooked at.
Okay.
Where are we on motions for this?
You've made a motion to reconsider. And it passed. And that's
Just a
this
procedural question.
Hmm?
Given the new information, at least for me, can we revisit the prior 2 votes?
Sure.
Well, I need to finish this.
Because now
I'll just go sit
now I'm
over
kind of
here.
in the middle.
I
It
go
does seem kind of unfair. If there was 8 and we're approving 3, I just think it sends the wrong message.
I had to leave the room. I'm not sure if it came up because I was involved in some of this. There was a sense that not all the jobs were as out of line as some, and I think there was a zeroing in on the professional, quote-unquote professional jobs, but the certified jobs, the jobs that were at a different grade level in terms of being able to replace was part of the thinking, at least for me. The attraction of employees. I mean, we need to do a succession plan because we're in some instances, because we've reached that point. We want to be able to offer enough salary to attract people of a certain caliber. Not all the jobs were that far out of line, and I think the survey, and I haven't got all the numbers in my head now, but for most jobs fell pretty much inside the middle, but some of the jobs in question now were outside, and in particular the water department. You know, we couldn't attract anybody of any caliber to run our water system with certifications in water. The position for a laborer in surrounding towns with the typical overtime paid more than we were paying our superintendent, and it was very difficult to even get close to attracting anybody. Again, you know, you can always get an applicant, but can you get an applicant that can do anything?
Tom was on the board during this period.
And I appreciate wanting to address these items because they see them out of whack, but fundamentally, I don't believe personnel should be dealt with in a triage basis. I think you're just looking to create a greater issue if you start treating some people, because they're further out of whack, differently than everyone else. That's just my fundamental belief, and that's why I am pretty firm in my vote.
I don't want to belabor it, but in some instances, we're actually changing job titles. I mean, we're making admins or from secretarial positions, you know, in these positions, you're dealing inside the position as opposed to elevating. I mean, you're changing the grade level, but you would have done that too, but it's a whole different level of responsibility.
Okay, so do we want to table discussion on the motion we have and go back, or do we want to finish this?
Sandy, do you have a question?
Or a comment?
I got another flash.
On a comment, I do have a comment. I think that, because I was dealing with the study also, and I think that these were some of the positions, and there may have been one or two others that were highly out of whack. I don't think it hurts.
It seemed like it was
to
the
deal-
higher
right.
positions that were
I
out
don't
of
think
whack.
it hurts to deal with these positions first, and then move on to the other positions. Sometimes we can't do everything that we want in one big fell swoop. And sometimes you have to go at it piecemeal. Hopefully, next year, we'll be able to get the whole thing in. But to bring these people up, I think that had we not done the classification study at all, and we just looked at these positions to see whether they should be reclassified or not, I think that they would have definitely qualified to be reclassified with the old system. So that was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I hate to see it go 3 years where these positions should have been reclassified 2 years ago.
And, yeah,
And the other point is that as much as the Wage and Personnel Board is going to be working on taking the structure of Don's plan, there's no guarantee that whatever they bring to town meeting in May of 2019 gets passed. I mean, we're not going to be able to pick and choose on that plan. It's basically going to be an up or down vote on the entire thing. If it gets voted down, then now we're looking at May of 2020 to bring these positions back and try and get them regraded under the current plan. I understand what you're talking about, the fairness. I'm also concerned about not the people in the positions right now, because that could change any week, any month, any year, but the ability of the town to get qualified people for these three positions. They all require a fair amount of technical expertise at a level in certifications that I would hesitate. And as much as I know we're going to, we may bring in, we're going to bring people in who are not as experienced, most likely, as a few people who are in their positions now. But the idea is to, whoever does come in, we have the best chance of recruiting people with more experience rather than less, more training rather than less, more certifications than less. And with the potential of waiting 2 more years, if it doesn't happen, if we don't do anything now, it won't be until May of 20, by May of 19, where we have another opportunity, and that fails, it's May of 20. That, what would we be talking about is, 4 or 5 years of waiting to do this?
I think I'm seeing it too more from the succession planning side, because the public sector in general is having such a hard time finding qualified personnel to fill a lot of positions that are going to be coming up open, if not now, in the next several years. So I just think, like, from an industry perspective, having a job description that allows us to be competitive when we can't be as competitive in a lot of other places, I think benefits us. And if now is the time that we can do it, then that's my big motivation too. But I completely understand what you're saying, what you guys are talking about, not wanting to look like we're doing things piecemeal.
So one comment that I have is, when we compare ourselves to other towns and when we're facing losses of employees, the biggest turnover that we've had is with the police and fire. We did a fire study. We haven't done it when we're doing
We're in it now.
again.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. And part of that is to address that issue.
So, I understand planning for the future, but I don't see turnover happening right now. So if you're gonna try to treat people fairly, I think you treat people fairly across the board. If you had massive turnover, or if you had a position that you were struggling to fill, I think that makes the case to do something right away. But
we wouldn't be able to reclassify the position if we were struggling to hire somebody, though. That would have to be a town meeting.
No, I understand that, but what I'm looking at when we look at everything as a town, we don't have an issue where we're seeing major turnover in the town hall. We have a major issue where we see turnover in police and fire, and we're not even, we're not,
But the two positions that we did have turnover most recently, those three, we had struggles, in fact, in finding people. So there's that evidence there. I don't see us, let's say, not doing anything won't make it easier for us the next time we need to hire people for those positions. Kathy is, for instance, turning 66, I believe, this week.
Don't tell
No, that's on public. Oh, you're in trouble, Charlie.
Comments in the Denver.
But, you know,
That's it, that's why you have to stay downstairs.
myself.
Well, now he definitely has to stay.
Right?
Who's in charge
Because when
now?
Kathy finds out, she's gonna make him stay downstairs.
So, and I don't think she's leaving tomorrow or the next day, but at some point she's going to be leaving. And could it be within the next year? Could it be within the next two? Certainly. So to say, well, we don't have a problem right now, so let's not do something about it. But what I'm saying is, let's be proactive rather than reactive.
Well, when we brought the building commissioner on board, we hired him at a higher step too, in order to go through the hiring process. And when Keith was leaving, we advertised that job. We didn't have hardly any applicants, or any qualified applicants. So,
Zero qualified.
yeah. So, in order to keep Keith, we put him up a couple of steps, because he was going as a laborer to another town and making more money as a laborer.
I understand that aspect, but when you look at a management job versus an hourly job, those are two different types of positions. It's like, I mean, a laborer can work as many overtime hours as he can fit in and
Correct.
make a lot more money. Like, when you look at the troopers at the state police and barracks F, they certainly, could make a lot more money than, even the governor. So I don't think when you compare the number of hours worked versus management versus, laborer, I understand those two sides of the coin. I think if we had all those positions come forward, then I would want to see them treated equally.
But the problem is that Keith is coming out at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's not getting paid anything more. If he's working in town X and coming out at 2 o'clock in the morning, he is getting paid more. So he may very well end up working the same number of hours in town X as here, but get paid more because he's eligible for overtime, where he's not eligible for overtime here.
I get that, but I mean, I worked a salary job. It didn't matter how many hours I worked. I had to get the job done. So if something broke and I had to take a flight to Oklahoma City, I didn't get paid any more for it. I had to take the flight, I had to go, and I had to fix the issue. And that was part of the job responsibilities. So if the job responsibilities are different than what we're looking at, then I think that that's the issue. I mean, if we're going to compare things, I think you need to compare those job descriptions and not just the wages that are attached with that position. So when you're looking at the study, and I understand how difficult it is to get things out of another town.
Well, it's each job description too, not that we have them in front of us, but I'm sure they're quite different from town to town. Like even with Keith's position, or the water superintendent, I should say. The other towns, they were also the DPW supervisor and water data. It's apples and oranges, it's hard to compare.
Sandy?
In Halifax, we have working department heads. So when there's a call on the water issue in the middle of the night, it's the department head who goes out. Keith goes out. And He works holidays, he's the first one to answer any calls. He does, so I understand that that's all, and I put in a lot more hours than 40 hours a week myself. But then you want to pay the position to get someone who is willing to do that. You don't want to pay them so that doesn't make it worth their while. You know what I mean? It's better off to not have any responsibility and be a laborer, and then I get my overtime and can make more money. But if you're going to take on that responsibility, you should be paid for that responsibility.
All valid points, and I agree. I don't want to shortchange any of these people. These people are, I'm sure, deserving of each and every one of these. I'm concerned about all the other employees that were quote-unquote participants in the study that we, as a finance committee, decided to fund with a transfer request. And when not treating everybody the same, and that's just my fundamental disagreement. I don't disagree that these three, on their own merits, may indeed, each one of them, be worthy of each reclassification. I'm just concerned about everybody else. I'm concerned about the entirety rather than the individual. Please, Tom.
I just wanted to add, and I understand and appreciate the piecemeal issue and problem. I have another view of it, and that's if, especially in a small town, it's going to be harder to pass an entire program because the costs are going to be reflective of an entire program, all in one fell swoop. Far less likely to happen. Easier to take it in some form of piecemeal and get it through, and then the rest of it doesn't come on and have the impact that it would if you were trying to do the entire program at once. And you're more likely to have that not pass, and I feel it would be more difficult as a board to support the kinds of numbers it's going to take. And that's one of the reasons that the board decided not to move forward with the whole thing this year, because the impact, especially in this particular year with the budget restraints that we had, was going to be far more difficult to pass. And to address the most quote-unquote egregious ones, and that's open for debate as to who thinks what's egregious and what isn't. But I think that was part of the thinking, at least, I don't want to speak for the entire board, because I can't, but I think that had some merit, that to take care of the things you could take care of that made sense, and then pass the rest of them and try to have not the impact all in one fiscal year.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Tom, to your point, I honestly don't know the answer to this. Did you feel, was there a consensus among the Wage and Personnel Board that Dawn's report was completely fine on the others? Or were you gonna,
I think we were coming to an agreement. We had to place everybody, and we had the figures for that. There was a lot of discussion whether we should keep it at step 6, go to up to step 8, or step 10 to make it easier on the town in the spread. So that came into play too. There was just too much on the board to have it all done by this fiscal year.
Okay.
And we didn't want to slight, well, I feel like we're slighting a lot of people right now, but we didn't want to slight people. And that was my first thought too, just like Mel said, and that's how I came into last Friday's meeting. The first thing I said was, I don't know if I can go along with this because of the unfairness of it. And because I felt like all the other positions too should have been looked at, even higher positions, including accountant, town administrator. And meeting with these department heads, we based our decision on that day.
So if all the recommendations from the report were accepted, what's the full exposure?
I'm sorry?
I heard it was 65,000, does that sound right?
It was...
65 or 68.
So 65,000, 10 of which are for these 3 positions.
No,
7,000.
6953.
No, I think it was more than that, wasn't it, Sandy? I thought it was close to 100,000.
I thought it was 98.
98,000 is 2%.
So 2%, but I thought the study was close to 100,000 also with the
I only heard
reclassification.
that from somebody, so I don't know.
I mean, I don't have everything, I don't remember anything like $100,000.
And I
for
did
the
so
study.
many iterations of
Yeah.
it.
It was just shy of
Yeah.
70.
Yeah.
And if we brought it forward, we weren't gonna ask for the 2%. We were just gonna go with the reclassification. So,
So if you were bringing it forward, there wouldn't be a 2% on these positions. These would have been the same recommendation.
well, what we were gonna do is we're gonna bring forward the reclassification without the 2%, and then if it didn't pass, ask for the 2%.
So it would have been
So
a
the-
whole different wage scale.
Mm-hmm.
But these positions coming forward would be at the wages without the 2%. So it's even more unfair in that manner that
Mm-hmm.
not only are they getting reclassified, they're getting a 2% bump on top of that reclassification. I mean, that's where I'm coming from looking at this, that if you're gonna,
No,
because
we would've-
wouldn't- if they were in the new study.
We would have passed over the 2%.
reclassification would have brought them up.
And also, if we don't move them at all, they get the 2%. Everybody's getting 2%, no matter what happens, unless town meeting says no.
but what, I guess what I'm saying is if you take the number here, the 7902, that's without the 2%.
7902 for, oh, no, I
For the-
think that's,
That was
they
with-
gave me with it. I think they gave, right, you guys?
Yeah.
Say that again, Gordon?
Those
So-
those
so the-
numbers are with the 2%. I did FY19 wages.
So when you did the step, because you said you did 18, the ones that I
No,
wrote
I
down were
was
18.
telling you 18 wages, but those are FY19 wages. The 79,000, because I have to choose in the fronts.
So just looking at it from an overall perspective, if you brought forward the whole study,
Mm-hmm.
say it's 70,000,
Mhm.
but doing the 2% is 98,000 with
No,
the
unions. See,
with
that's the
unions,
thing.
yeah,
You'd
with
still have
unions.
to do unions, so you have to look at what would have been.
So what is it
for
without
non-union. I
unions?
don't know,
About
that's,
60,000?
the 2% without unions is about
About 40,000.
40.
So we'd be looking at a difference of $20,000.
Less?
No, it would be
More.
$4,000.
More.
And then
To do
everybody,
everybody.
but then everybody would be at the correct step.
Okay.
Or what,
The right
reclassified,
The right
Whatever-
grade.
whatever,
Whatever that.
The
that,
right grade.
Yeah,
whatever the outcome of the study was,
Yes.
right.
would have been a recommendation.
But that was with the old figures.
And that's what we struggled with too, because we were looking at the old figures. For us, we didn't have the manpower to go out there and do another study on the new figures.
I think it would be a fair number to extrapolate 2.5% or 2% for each couple of years, as that's kind of the
Well, it
number
would have
that's
really
been.
been a little over 1 year, yeah.
Yeah, but if you did 2% each year,
Mm-hmm.
that would not be exact, but give you a rough estimate, I would think.
I guess I would have been, I understand money was an issue at the time that we did this, but I think that that's why, one of the reasons that we said wage and personnel's decisions shouldn't be based on the money that we have available. They should be based on their decisions that they came forward with. And that's what we've said in years past.
Yes, that's
It's
true.
wage and
That's true.
personnel's,
Mm-hmm.
it's
But-
their job description to present their information